3 o'clock on this Monday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. And if you were just tuned in the last couple of minutes, and you know it is a special edition of the Postgame Show today and a special edition of Brews Day, as our good friend Ryan Brewer, the former Gamecock, joins us here in the studio, typically on Tuesdays during football season. And we're trying to squeeze out as much time from Ryan as we can before we get into the holidays. And then we have to, say goodbye to him until, spring.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get kicked out of here. Last week I said I'd do a couple hours, and Jay's like, "All right, see you."
Well, I'm out.
Then I get bumped on Tuesday, and so I'm here on Monday.
What you have to realize,
didn't even know I was coming in. I just snuck in. Security's chasing me down. They're knocking on the door now.
I'm very regimented in what I do here, and so I just kind of did the typical sign off last Tuesday.
And I just kind of looked at you like, all right, see you.
Well, then I said, but then we could have had some fun with it. And then you were like, nah, I'm leaving.
Yeah, he's hurt my feelings. I'm sensitive, Jay.
Hurt people, Jay Phillips.
That's right. You know, Ryan, see, that's what Ryan does. Ryan is sensitive. What he does, he manifests all of that in one night a year as he scares small children on Halloween. And then the rest of the time.
Well, I can't play football anymore. Not that capacity or not any capacity.
Yeah, pickup football is hard.
So I can't go ahead and just everything I have and let it out on a football field. Right. What's your boy's name? Oh man, what's the Arizona State running back?
Oh, Cam Scattaboo.
Scattaboo. Now that guy. Right. That's. Did you see him before the game? He's got his hands out and he's just bringing all the energy in. Right. That's how you play the game. You grab everything, all the energy, and then you just run through someone. First play, I can't do that anymore. So,
by the way, they looked really good the other day.
That kid's a bowling ball, man. He is so fun to watch.
They really beat Iowa State.
You beat the hell out of them. And it didn't help Iowa State started the second half with 3 turnovers inside their own.
That doesn't. Yeah, giving the team the ball, the other team the ball is not a good way to play, in my personal opinion.
Got comical. And
actually, did he break more tackles than the Boise State guys? He over 20? Because on that one run, he broke 10.
I need to look. I'm going to pull that up, actually, the PFF numbers on how much he actually broke. Because that was pretty impressive.
Speaking of Ashton Jeanty, he had a nice game.
Yeah, only ran for 207 yards.
I was just talking with Ryan. We got a lot to get to, y'all, so we'll spend a lot of time on the Gamecocks in the bowl game. Carolina, a heavy favorite, at least early. Let's watch for roster depletion on both sides to see how that line moves. But the Citrus Bowl is it's a great bowl. I know Carolina fans really wanted to be in the playoff considering how the season ended, but didn't quite happen, and I think you understand why. We'll get into all of those things for you, a little bit of hoops as well a little bit later on. But Boise, I think a lot of Boise fans were, this is weird to say. I think they hoped they made the playoff. And then Ryan and I were just talking about it. I think they hoped that they were going to get a home game because, that would be somewhat of an advantage. And I've seen a lot of people complaining about this. Listen, I've said all along, Elijah can back me up. And even before I ever met Elijah Campbell, when this format was announced, I remember sitting, speaking of Elijah, I remember sitting on Radio Row at the Grand Hyatt Hotel in downtown Nashville, Tennessee.
Wonderful place.
With the wonderful Mr. Bill Hancock, former executive director of the College Football Playoff. And in that smiling face of his, when I asked, hey, shouldn't the top 4 seeds get home games? And he went, State made it. Texas made it. That's it, right? Iowa State did not.
Iowa State did not.
So, no, wait, I'm forgetting somebody. SMU. Yeah, no, that's it. Okay, I got him. So I'd rather have a home game. But if I'm Boise, where are they? I forget which bowl they're. Boise's going to play. Okay.
Which they've historically never done anything.
Well, they like that, yeah. But they're going to get. Boise's going to play Penn State.
Have you seen James Franklin coach in big games? Maybe they get SMU.
Yeah, you think they will?
I'm not putting it past them.
I'll be taking Penn State in that one for sure. Everybody that has a home game is at least a touchdown favorite. Whatever that's worth to you.
Yeah.
Whatever that's worth to you. But Boise probably would what's Boise sit at? It's not a mile. It's not like Denver, but it's it's elevated and cold and a weird field. There's a lot of things that can throw
pretty much that's the team that would have the most home field advantage.
I would think
out of all
so.
These teams.
I would think so.
I thought the home field advantage against UNLV was pretty prevalent.
Yeah,
because UNLV loves to go up and down the field. The go-go offense isn't called that because it's slow.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they move.
Some teams want to say they have home field advantage, like we were talking about with Notre Dame or Indiana, or whatever. But it's not that much colder there than it is here right now.
Right.
Now, and you're talking about maybe a Texas or Tennessee traveling, Clemson traveling if they're going up north. The cold here is the wet cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cold,
which is more miserable
right now, and that it's not like I mean.
How many times did you play in snow in high school? Serious question. How many times did you play? Did you?
Yeah, I did. But it was mostly playoff games, and I've had one that was -12.
Oh God.
And that was not home field advantage. That was no one wanted to play an advantage. Like I couldn't feel my extremities.
I didn't know you went to high school in Siberia.
Yeah, so
very nice.
we were playing UD, and it was on the turf that was like as hard as this floor right here, just carpet, and there was just a sheet of ice on it. And I ran a swing right out of the backfield, and wide open, catch the ball into the half. I'm a freshman, and I'm going in to score, and I'll hear the crowd go, "Oh!" I'm like, "What just happened?" While I'm running, I hear, but I look down. I don't have the ball anymore. I could not feel the ball. I could not feel the ball in my arms. I could not feel my arms. I couldn't feel anything. And the ball, and like the times it was slow mo. It still plays in my head. The ball just rolling out of bounds, and I'm watching the ball roll out of bounds as the clock just ticks to 0. And we could have gone in a half with the lead,
right?
And now I'm just like mortified. I can't feel anything. It was it doesn't matter where you're from.
I was going to say at that point that's not
it doesn't matter.
Either team is going to, if it's -12, I don't care how many times you've played in it, right?
But the point is, so there's multiple shows that I've done calling you all whatever pre-games, especially bowl games. I've been outside in Ohio with shorts and no shoes on, just like no big deal.
Right.
Now it's cold, but it's not. You can stand it. You can deal with it. Now when it's raining and cold or whatever, that's just a different story.
Yeah. And I was just telling you off air too, like Tennessee's going to Columbus. Okay. If Ohio State was going to Knoxville for the same game on the same date, December 21, A, it's going to be cold in Knoxville, and B, Ohio State would still be favored to win. Now, maybe not by as many points.
Yeah, they'd still be favored.
But they'd still be favored to win. So, does it matter? Sure.
But it does matter. I would say that if there's a way that we got into this playoff, if we had a home field game, that's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Willie B in the college?
No, it'd be great.
Playoffs?
Any of them, Ryan, and that's my point.
I'd be an earthquake before the game.
That's why for these top 4 seeds, look, in 26, this has to change. If you are one of the top 4 seeds in this tournament, you got to play at home, man. That's just and you're going to have home games. Otherwise, let's do what basketball does and make them all neutral, or do what almost every other sport does and make them all on somebody's field until a championship. That's my opinion. But we'll touch on all that. We got plenty of time for it, but it's all out there. Again, Gamecocks taking on Illinois in the Citrus Bowl. That'll be a New Year's Eve kick instead of a New Year's Day game this year for the Citrus Bowl. 3 o'clock. South Carolina installed as 10-point favorites. Both schools come in at 9-3. I was not surprised South Carolina was favored. And again, I do think it will change. I even told Elijah this probably goes down to more like a touchdown by the time the game starts, just with opt-outs and a few other things here or there for both schools. But I was surprised that it was such a big spread to start with, considering both are 9-3 and both in the top 20.
Yeah, but I think I think you look at what South Carolina's done the last 6 games. They're saying, "Man, this team's hot." Now, I would think they would start lower, just not knowing how many guys, especially on our defensive side, will maybe not play. I have no idea about Illinois' side.
Yeah,
I'd seniors or guys that that are NFL bound. I have no clue. The only thing I know is steps there. I mean, that's about it.
Right.
So,
well, I texted our buddy Andrew.
Personal.
You know Andrew Kiddick very well. I just said it's the Andrew Kiddick Classic. So.
Yeah. So we do have some ties there, but they're not strapping it on. One's coaching, but they're not going to be on the field. So. But yeah, the spread, and you look at it, it's like, man, that just seems like a lot for a bowl game with very similar records. But I think they have to take into effect that we're hot.
Yeah.
The CFP didn't take into effect, but at least the bowl games will, and Vegas will.
Were you, Elijah, surprised at 10-point spread?
10-point spread, not really. I mean, that's going to change. I really don't take much into account of what the spread is when the game opens, because we still have, transfer portal that is going to open up, and certain players for both teams are going to opt in and out for either draft reasons or, transfer portal reasons. We're not going to have a full picture of what the rosters are going to look like going into this game for another week and a half. I mean, we're going to get well into the bowl practices.
Yeah, I mean, you'd love to
have,
take Shane's what Shane's hearing from the players and like take the word for it. But
I
that's,
love that.
and it may be true. And I hope it's true.
Right.
But at the same time, it never happens that way. I mean, these guys, they start getting agents in the ear or whatever and talking and really thinking about it. It's like, oh man, is this game worth it?
Especially on this defense.
But
there's a couple dudes.
There are some dudes, but at the same time,
dudes.
this is a time to write your name in Gamecock lore, or be another 10-win, one of the few 10-win seasons.
It's the fifth.
And have a chance to where you go out as the best defense of all time type deal. Let's go make another statement out there.
Again, we'll break down the game a little bit more, and we got plenty of time to do that. Before we hit the break, though, one other gigantic piece of news over the weekend that I think caught a lot of people by surprise, and that was Dowell Loggins being named the new head football coach at Appalachian State. I'll be perfectly honest with you, man. Did not see it coming. No, it doesn't shock me that he wanted the job or that he got the job. He and his people and Shane and the folks over there kept this thing super quiet in the modern world.
Yeah, it smacked me in the face, too. It's like one of those, I found, Twitter right off the bat, and people texting, what's going on? What's going on? It's like, I don't know. And App State's obviously a great place to coach.
Yeah.
And I don't know what his path, what he wants to do, if this is where he wants to be path-wise. But the biggest thing is you're leaving a potential, if not a really high candidate, Heisman guy coming in. And that's where everyone's questions like, man, it's kind of weird that he's doing that. And in his press conference, Dow was awesome about, that was his hardest phone call he had to make was to Lenoris.
Made a push for this to Brew's point, and we've talked about this before. I did a show in North Carolina yesterday with my buddy Mike Waddell. He asked me to like an emergency pod, like, give me your take. And he and Coach Collins were both in agreement with me, pound for pound. Now, not size-wise and budget-wise, but pound for pound, the most rabid football fan base of colleges in North Carolina is Appalachian State. This is a good gig.
It's a great gig.
It's a good conference, but I talked about how Lenoris and Dowell, as Ryan said, are super tight. But again, timing is everything.
Well, it's the perfect time for Dowell to kind of cash in. We had the similar conversations about Clayton, right? I mean, what was the conversation about Clayton last year after the Florida game, where you kind of blew a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, defense looked really bad? The conversation was, is he back next year? And then you went from, is he back next year, to that same point next year, are you a top 10 defense in college football? That's the margin right there. If he wants to be a head coach, now this is the perfect time to throw your name in the hat for a lot of these openings. And then maybe you can use the momentum that you have to get you a really good head coaching job, or at least the best one that you can get in striking while the iron's hot. What was the conversation about Dowell Loggins, even in this market after the Old Dominion game? What was the conversation like after the Ole Miss game when the offense wasn't looking too good?
Yeah, market value is definitely skyrocketed, but is that market value? Again, it depends on where you want to go. Do I want to be a head coach with that market value, or is it worth, hey, maybe my OC, I want to be, just pay me more money here, knowing what I have in the pocket with the quarterback going. So he obviously made his decision. He wants to be the head coach, and I think he's one of those guys that you watch and listen to him on the podium. He's got that head coach speech for sure. Yeah,
it's a good opportunity for him, and now in the short term, who's going to call plays, and run the offensive practice up until the Illinois game, and then what does Shane do beyond that? So we've got a lot of storylines to get to locally, regionally, nationally. We'll touch on all of it. A special edition of Brews Day on a Monday. Jay and Elijah, the postgame show. Business owners, especially small and medium-sized businesses, make a New Year's resolution to better promote yourself, your business, your products by talking with our good friends right down the street at Minuteman Press. When I say right down the street, seriously, a block away, right here on Gervais Street, basically the corner of Bull and Gervais. The old Apex Graphic, that's where Minuteman Press is now. Ken and Anna Holloway now own Minuteman Press, and they've got more than 300,000 available items to help you promote your business, grow your business, say thank you to your customers and clients, whatever it is that you might need, whether it is clothing, signage, all types of giveaways, your pins and paper sets, mugs, whatever you need. If it's got your logo on it, Minuteman Press can make it happen. And they can still handle all of your design and printing needs, too. So, they're a one-stop shop, man. Again, 300,000 items, local folks, national reach. Check them out online. Learn more. Grow your business with Minuteman Press.
Really haven't seen them a lot, David. I watched a little bit of their game, either in a hotel or at home when they played Oregon. Maybe saw some of that game. They played somebody, I want to say they played either on a first game of the season as maybe on a Thursday night or a Friday night or something, and I've seen them a little bit just on television, but haven't dove deep into their team. But obviously they're in a great league, a league that got, 4 teams in the playoff, and they found a way to be one of the best teams in that conference. So that we know they'll be tough, physical, Big Ten football team.
That is Shane Beamer, not having seen a lot of Illinois. Coaches, if you don't play them, chances are a coach really hadn't seen you much. And that's not one where it's coach speak either.
No.
They don't have time.
Who are you sending out to scout potential bowl teams?
That actually surprises me. I thought Beamer watched every game, every. I mean, even like D2 games. I thought he was watching them. I swear he's got doppelganger on doppelganger, and he's doing all these things. But I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, well, hey, we're all wrong sometimes, right?
Sorry, guys, got to cut the presser short. Mountain Union's on right now. We got to prepare just in case we play.
Lost to Penn State by 14, Oregon by 29, and Minnesota by 8. They beat their best win. They beat Michigan by 14 at home.
When they wore those sick throwback uniforms.
I got to tell you, and I guess, and this is not a slam, so don't anybody say anything. They beat Purdue, and everybody beat Purdue, right? They beat Purdue by a point.
Oh, they blew like
they had 2 overtime games, though, right? Nebraska and Purdue. So, a lot of these games they won are pretty close as well.
The game against Purdue too went to overtime, I think, and didn't they blow like a 3-touchdown lead in that? I'm looking that up right now. I want to say that one got really wacky.
It was let's see, it was 24-3 at halftime, and then it was 27-20 going into the fourth quarter, and then Purdue outscored them in the fourth, and then Illinois won in overtime by a point.
Yeah, the biggest lead had in that game. Let's see. I've got the scoring rundown here right now. It was 27-10 Illinois with 7 minutes to go in the third quarter.
All right. So
and then had a 14-point lead with 10 minutes left. Had a 12-point lead with 5 minutes left. And then was down by 3 with 46 seconds left.
I mean, we're all kind of learning on the fly right here. Like, I'll tell you right now, let's see.
I do remember that game getting really crazy.
They run for about 150 yards a game. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Luke Altmaier had a pretty solid season.
Yeah, they throw for just over 200 yards a game. But I mean, running for 150 a game is pretty good.
21 touchdown passes, 5 picks for Altmaier. Was a former Ole Miss quarterback.
Yeah,
transferred in.
They don't have any real standout. Aiden Lawfrey is their leading rusher at 522 yards. He gets 6.4 per, he tried to say. And Josh McCray, 495 yards. He gets 4.8 per. So those two guys combined for over 1,000. So they split time. And Luke Altmaier, 2,543 yards, completes 61% of his passes, 21 touchdowns, 5 picks. And opponents, so here's a number for you guys. He was sacked 31 times this season.
That kind of makes me a little hungry if I'm a DN.
Yeah.
Thinking about
that sounds delicious.
Going in or not.
That's a lot. That's a lot of sacks.
The whole D line's got to look at that and be like, let's go one more time.
Yeah,
one more time.
I got one more in me.
But like we said, I mean, for now, and I'll be careful how we talk about all these things. The only transfer names we've seen leaving South Carolina football have been guys that we're not going to see playing time, and they know that, and I think they're all leaving on good terms.
And I think that's what the portal was meant for.
Right. Well, that's always what transfers typically have been, right? You just want to go play. Now, in this day and age, obviously it's a little bit different. The exams are this week, so guys are going to be focused on academics primarily.
Some of them.
Some of them. Yeah, well, you better be. You should be, and I think they will. Again, some more than others, sure. But, maybe by next week, I don't know. Again, we're not naive. There will be overtures to some of the bigger names on this team. Also, some of the bigger names on this team that have eligibility remaining, like a Nick Emmanwori or a TJ Sanders, guys like that. Ryan, there can be conversations, but there'll need to be conversations with the school, with the draft advisory board, with their families, all that kind of stuff to determine, what returning might look like relative to not and things like that. And I don't know how you feel. I would always say and I'll just use Nick as an example. If the advisory panel is saying, listen, you're outside shot at a day one, almost definitely a day two in April, I think I'm going to go take my chance and go make some money playing football.
Yeah, and I would say, I don't know, how long has McCaffrey been in the league?
A while now. I mean, coming up on, let's see, I want to say 2017 is when he.
Yeah, he was a 17 guy.
Yeah.
So yes, that if you would have said it then, I would probably smack you.
Right.
Because that's how I felt then. I was like, you're leaving your team, you're doing all this stuff, but I've actually changed the thought process on this, and the same deal. It is your team. I'd love to play for them. I'd love to get one more game back right now if I could.
Sure.
But at the same time, if you have this opportunity to make a ton of money in the NFL, and you're risking it for something that's maybe this is a time that younger guys can get some more playing time, whatever. I understand that. But I think it's more like team decision. If you're not ticking off, hey guys, you're cool with this. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
All right.
Type deal as well. But it's bowl games is now we're starting to come to where this is where the younger guys get their feet wet.
It's almost. I mean, this is kind of Elijah and I have talked about this, and we haven't with you, but I want to right now. It's almost like this is what I want from a spring game, and I mean that.
So just move these all towards the spring.
Well, no, I don't want to move the bowl games.
Might as well, right?
Well, that wouldn't bother me. Wouldn't bother me. I mean, but bowl games are still what they are. But, and I am not one who wants to call a bowl game meaningless.
You know how ticked off I would have been if they moved the bowl game. A guy that wasn't, I wasn't projected to get drafted on, this stuff, but that was my last time to play. And it was against Ohio State, and I couldn't play in it because they did it in the spring.
Well, let me clarify what I mean by I want to see this in the spring is I want to see them play real teams.
I put it in the spring, but that's yes.
Yeah, I want to see them play real team. But this is what it's become, and this is why getting that sixth win, if nothing else, for any college football team is so important because it guarantees you the ability to have these practices in December, which South Carolina did miss out on last year. Now, clearly last year they overcame it, if you will, and look at what they did this year. But and even for Nick, as I sit here and talk out loud, and I guess TJ too, the possibility of having the conversations with the collective on, hey, where's your status? What could we do for you? And look, and schools across the country will have that. So I want to be careful in how I name specific players because I have zero idea as to what their conversations are like.
$5 million to play in a bowl game, but it's that's the crazy part.
Or to come back, Ryan, is my point. To come back for a final season of eligibility.
A lot of guys now they got to weigh that option because sometimes you're making more money. Shoot, heck, a lot of times you're making more money in college right now for these really high touted players instead of going to the NFL, where you could be, you're gambling on where I am in draft status, right. Where I am.
If you're not a first round pick, you're making the rookie minimum, and you're gonna. There's some schools that'll say, oh, you're going to be a third round pick, and you would make X. Well, we'll pay you Y, which is double X.
Yeah, and there's a reason. Like Spencer came back. There's a reason that you see some of these guys come back, which is good for the college sport, but it's a lot of money, and that's whole nother issue. But They definitely right now are going to have to open the pocketbook up for some of these guys to come back.
Cut number 5. Do we have time for this? Oh, no, I don't. I'll tell you what. All right, I'll come back. We got a lot more to get to. Shane speaking on the bowl game, on Dowell Loggins. Ryan is with us. We got the national discussion to get into. Certainly want to hear from you, especially while Brew's here on the Gamecocks, 803-404-6100. It's a Reaction Monday. We're reacting to all kinds of stuff across the college football landscape. This is the Postgame Show. Love telling you about our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. And if you are a homeowner, love where you live, love the house, love the location, proximity to school and work and church and whatever else. But you also know it's time for some upgrades. Take advantage of the equity in your home and do it with Palmetto Citizens. Their home equity line of credit is a great way for you to make home improvements, to consolidate high-interest debt, or to get money for any needs. They're local, they're not-for-profit, they can offer you lower rates and fewer fees than the big banks, and when you unlock your home's equity, you can access that line of credit over a 10-year draw to assist with all of your goals and needs, right? Fix up the kitchen now, the bathroom later, borrow it when you need it. Apply today. Learn more. PalmettoCitizens.org or stop into any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. My wife and I are members. We love the service we get from them, and we think you will too. Palmetto Citizens, achieve your potential. Talking Carolina football, talking the playoff, talking cold weather games. 14-year-old Ryan Brewer fumbling in a playoff game because it was -12 and his hands were as blue as Boise's field. Well, he didn't say that, but I figured that's about what it was.
Fumbling without feeling a fumble is a really impressive feat.
Yeah, and I actually had gloves on. That was the last time I ever wore gloves, too. I blamed it on the gloves because I couldn't feel my hands, and then through the gloves, couldn't feel the ball. So it's just the gloves were off.
Who were y'all playing?
St. Francis.
Where are they?
Cleveland-esque team. They're
okay.
They're another recruiting. They recruit a lot.
I got you.
All those Catholic schools in Ohio.
I got you. Well,
I think they beat St. Ignatius that year, that's a big deal back then.
I got to be honest, man. I know 2 high schools in Ohio.
Moeller
and yours, Troy.
Yeah. St. Ignatius was the top dog over Moeller.
Where did well, see, I can't even think of it, but LeBron went to a Catholic high school. My 14th birthday in South Bend. I was not there.
You were there in spirit.
I was listening to Bob Fulton on the radio, Bob and Tommy on the radio. I can still remember it, man. Me and my granddad. Because it wasn't on TV in 1984, my man. That was a cool birthday. That was a cool birthday present.
That is. You could only have so many games on TV in 1984.
Yeah.
Games changed.
6 years later, South Carolina lost to the Citadel on my birthday, and I was in college, and that sucked.
Worst birthday present
Worst birthday ever, right? So it's amazing what happens when you have a fall birthday. Anyway, welcome back in, Jay, Elijah, Ryan here on a special edition of Brews Day. Coach Tanner will be with us on tomorrow's program in the 3 o'clock hour. So Ryan Brewer, in all seriousness, kind enough to move his visit with us from Tuesday to Monday. Again, the other big story around Carolina football does not involve the on-field, but the off. Dowell Loggins, if you have not yet heard, by now most of you probably have, hired on Friday as the new head coach at Appalachian State. And give me cut number 2 on our list today, please, Elijah Campbell here. Shane Beamer from last night's press conference on Dowell Loggins.
Looking back to yesterday, excited for Dowell. Great compliment to him, testament to him, fired up for him and Beth to get the opportunity to go to a great program up in Boone and become a head coach. And he would be the first to tell you it's a credit to the players and staff here at Carolina, but he's worked really, really hard for the opportunity. And like I told him, based on the way that we played offensively at the end of the season and Lenoris as a quarterback, there were going to be other opportunities. And for him, don't just take the first one, make sure it's the right one. And he went up to Boone and spent the night a couple nights ago. And he called me yesterday and, told me that he really felt it was the right one and this was the direction that he was going. So wish him well.
It's a fantastic town, Boone, North Carolina. Again, rabid fan base. They have put resources in, certainly in a relative sense. They're in the Sun Belt Conference. I know you weren't a quarterback, but with a guy who played multiple positions, and I know how much Skip meant to you guys, take us through as best you can that kind of relationship. And I mean, everything's reparable, but what's that going to be like right now in the short term?
Well, let's just put it this way. LSU game, I made sure I was on the field to see Coach Fitch. Todd Fitch was, my receivers coach. He was, he was all over the place, receivers, running backs. He's sometimes in the quarterback room too. But I mean, he was a guy that I learned the most football from. And I just want to make sure, I stay in touch and want to make sure I saw him that day, just even if it was for 2 seconds, just to say, hey, give him a hug, love your brother type deal. That it's just you build that relationship because that's who you're with all day. That and the strength coach. I mean, those are the guys that you have the biggest bond with. So it could be a big deal, but at the same time, this is what happens in college football. I mean, I had Joker Phillips, I had Buddy Pugh, I had all these other coaches and Fitch and Skip, all these guys that were around me. Fitch was the longest term there, but at any moment you can have another coach. They take a better job or they get released, whatever. It's part of the business. So the next guy's coming in is going to have the same thing. He's got to build a relationship knowing that's the number one quarterback. That's my main target. That's the guy I got to, make sure that we are best friends, and that's what's going to happen. And no matter if it's in-house, out-of-house, whatever, it's not going to change much if they get along right off the bat. If there's hey, we're not going to really change much. You're the man, Lenoris-wise, but you need to listen to what I'm saying. I'm going to keep making you grow and make you better. So I think that's the biggest deal right now is just finding someone that's going to keep nurturing and make sure that Lenoris does get on that Heisman Trophy podium.
Yeah, and look, I think he'll be one of the top candidates next year. I'd say top 10 dozen.
10 for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. And what's interesting too, Elijah, with the departure of an OC right now, and this could be anywhere, but we'll so we can blend the specifics with the general. Now analysts are allowed to do all the coaching. We've heard Shane talk a lot about Mike Shula's direct involvement in quarterbacking. Dowell obviously has the quarterback coach title as well, but he has to oversee everything. So Coach Shula has often been with Lenoris in a more one-on-one situation. I can't sit here and say, oh, well, so that'll be completely advantageous and they won't miss a beat. But there is a difference, even this year alone, than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, and that they might not miss a beat for this bowl game,
right?
For the Citrus Bowl. I mean, they could probably be able to. I mean, Mike Shula's a smart enough guy to understand the play calling of Dow Loggins, why he did things the way he did. They were in such communication all season long that you can still run almost the exact type of offense for this game. But moving forward, I mean, this might change some things in terms of the offensive coordinator you want because of the players you've recruited, right? This is a heavy wide receiver recruiting class, all with guys with different skill sets. You're still going to go into the transfer portal and probably try to snag a receiver or two. I mean, this changes the way that you build the offensive roster for next year if you bring in a guy who has a specific type of vision. There are plenty of good offensive minds out there. And if somebody has a different type of vision than maybe what Dowell did, that might change how you build the roster or how you even look for offensive coordinators in general.
Maybe, but it's not going to change the amount of guys that want to come play here because you got that trump card of the quarterback you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would think any transfer portal tight end receiver right now should be beating down the door here going, I want to play with this guy.
Oh, if I'm like Barry and Brown, the kid from Kentucky, that speedster, be like, oh, imagine being in an offense with this type of quarterback right here.
Did he enter? Okay.
Him and Dane Key.
Key. I knew Key did. Okay,
He was the one who, it was down between Carolina and Kentucky for his recruitment. Yeah. So
interesting.
That's going to be the fun part. Just see what, because the transfer portal has been and I hate transfer portal when our guys leave. I've been loving it, but I've been loving the last couple of years of who we've been getting. And I think we're going to have another. Again, it's just with what's going on, if you're, knowing Lenoris is here offensively, receivers and tight ends, defensively, knowing who's leaving. And knowing that you got the defensive coach of the year coming back and type this, I mean, you should have your pick of the litter of transfer portal guys coming at you.
Right. And I'll be interested to see, and there's some more cuts from Shane that we'll get to throughout the afternoon. But Ryan and I were talking off air, Elijah, and you and I have discussed this before as well. In terms of a new OC, and it might be somebody who's in-house. It might not. I have no idea, and I don't want to speculate too much. But in this day and age, we have seen a lot of innovative, smaller school head coaches. I almost call them mid-majors. Be willing to. I mean, look, even Gus Malzahn gave up. I mean, he's in the Big 12. Even if it's UCF, he's in the Big 12, and he quit. You've seen a lot of those guys. And Carolina can pay you. So I'll be curious to see just how big a net Shane wants to cast out there in terms of the next OC.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be pretty imaginative. Again, there's just a lot of really good type of offensive coordinators, play callers at any type of level, right? I mean, the guy at UNLV has put up a season, really put up really impressive offensive numbers with a quarterback who was a really good scrambler. Haj Malik Williams was a great scrambling running back. I think he led that team in passing and rushing 4 different times this year. And they have an offense that he calls the go-go offense.
And he went into the season as their number 2.
Yeah.
Because the other kid left.
They had 2 quarterbacks in the offense that skip a beat when the starter left. If anything, it might have gotten better.
But that's the only thing that scares me is a little bit. Now, the verbiage. You got someone coming in that's going to – now, am I throwing a whole other playbook at you and all – because you saw what happened earlier. We had this offense had to grow.
Yeah.
Lenoris had to grow.
That's fair.
He had to learn. He wasn't – by the end of the year, I talk about it all the time. He wasn't thinking anymore. He was just playing football. And now, if all of a sudden you got coming in and you got a short time to learn a whole new playbook, that could challenge again for this offense to start off fast again. Right. It may not be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I think a prerequisite of taking this job for an offensive coordinator has to be look at what you have right now. You may not want to run everything that you bring in because that's actually a really, really good concern is do you want to change too much from what works, right? You can surely run in some wrinkles that wouldn't be a massive adjustment, but
it's not. Look, offensive play calls are the bones of it are usually the same. Mm-hmm. Right but it's really verbiage. It's now if someone comes in and changes whatever your zone play is from Braves to whatever, now you name something different. You got to all this has to you're relearning. You're learning a new language. Pretty much you are. So it's I'm going from English to Spanish to French to whatever, and it all means the same. But so this guy's calling it something why is this guy speaking a different language over here? No, he means just run a zone. So you got to figure all that out. And that's, the NFL kind of keeps it all the same, the verbiage wise, but college does not.
No, because college coaches are paranoid.
Yeah, they're worried about, this word. They change it sometimes guys change it. We have 3 words for one play because I don't want them to read my lips. Whatever. So and back, when we played, we didn't have anybody hiding the signals or anything. I was like, I thought about it. I was like, you could steal our signals so easy back then.
More with Ryan Brewer on a special Brews Day at the Postgame Show. All right, welcome back. Final few minutes of our first hour and our special Brews Day edition of the Postgame Show. Ryan with us here on a Monday instead of a Tuesday. Coach Tanner will be with us, the outgoing now South Carolina Athletics Director.
It's going to throw my whole week off.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, like, now I'm going to think tomorrow's Wednesday. And
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like, for me, today is Wednesday, sort of, because I'm off Thursday and Friday. So this is like my midweek show.
So what is Wednesday then to you?
I don't know, Sunday. I don't know.
Now I'm confused.
I don't know. It's just I'm only working 3 days this
I wouldn't
week,
do
man.
that because you're gonna really mess things up.
That's all I'm saying is I'm only working 3 days this week. So there's that. I do know this much. All right, I'm going to give you a fact right now. You ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready.
Every time Ryan Brewer comes into this studio, it is brought to you by Ryan Brewer and Ryan Brewer Fence.
Indisputable fact.
Fact.
That is yes, that is a fact.
It is a fact. That is not an
The
opinion.
first thing you said correct today.
Thank you, Ryan.
So yeah, Ryan Brewer Fence. Go check us out for any of your residential or commercial fencing needs. We can take care of it. And right now it's getting real close to the holiday season. We got some cool wall art from your palmetto tree stuff, Gamecock stuff, and but it's time to go ahead and get it. RyanBrewer.net or call the office 803-647-1591, and Miss Ann can help you out with all that.
Well, if it helps the business, again, you impressed the heck out of my father-in-law, who is a Navy man, a Clemson man, a farmer, a hunter, like where you grew up, lots of need for things, and very impressed with the brand new fence that is around our backyard.
Thank you. We have some good teams, that's for sure.
Well, I didn't say I did. He did.
I didn't care what you. Yeah, I said thank you. That
My wife
to him.
likes it.
I was thanking you to tell him thank you.
Sure.
For his compliments because.
Sure.
Again, it really didn't matter if I pleased you or not. It was had to do with the wife and
Mrs.
the father-in-law
Phillips is a big fan. Yes, Mrs. Phillips cares. No, it looks great. It looks fantastic, actually. But he did. He was like, "Isn't it really nice?" I was like, "Yeah, it is really nice, isn't it?" So check him out, RyanBrewer.net. All right, Ohio State, Tennessee. Who you got in Columbus?
Tennessee.
Okay. Notre Dame, Indiana, and South Bend.
Notre Dame.
Penn State, SMU, and State College.
I was leaning Penn State. Can SMU, with the firepower they have, I don't know. Penn State.
Okay. And
Boy, if James Franklin loses that game.
I know. That's
Oh, buddy.
well, if he loses that game, who's Penn State's head coach next season?
James Franklin.
Okay.
and I really want Penn State to win by like 30.
The discourse.
Just to be even more controversy that, just the
Do you really?
just I want,
And
just let's so next week if I'm
Ryan's
here,
here for toxicity.
yeah. I just want more chaos and death.
Yes.
not actual death,
I mean, speak for
figurative
yourself.
death.
Figurative death, sorry.
And Clemson
Forget it is Monday, so the Monday crowd doesn't know that there's death and chaos was our defense.
Yes. Clemson is going to Austin.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Okay. Well, they're not going to go, or
They may forfeit.
oh, wow, okay. I was gonna say, wait,
Okay.
Hey, we need a breaking news dun right? Like Clemson will not be making the trip to Austin, Texas.
Citing fear of Bevo.
Matthew McConaughey can't lose 2 in a row.
What is the line on that game, Elijah? 10?
Yesterday I saw it at 14.5
Oh, my.
initially, but I think it's down to like 11.5 or 10.5.
And then again, the Ohio State-Tennessee winner gets Oregon. The Notre Dame-Indiana winner gets Georgia. The Penn State-SMU winner gets Boise. The Texas-Clemson winner gets Arizona State.
Those really don't make that actually makes no sense. There's who gets. I think Oregon's getting the short end of the stick on this one.
I would agree with you.
How can you be
That's a
number
tough
one and that's the draw you have?
Yeah, I would agree with you. 'Cause
Georgia-
that's the
Georgia probably has-
8-9 game. That's why. It's the bracketing. That's how brackets work.
I get that,
So
but the seeding doesn't make sense when it comes there. Georgia,
they should reseed, right?
They should, yeah.
Reseed after these games are played. But again, I don't
think
like
Georgia's going to be better if Beck's not playing. Is that a
Well,
is that a
I think
take?
it'll
Can I take-
force
can I say that?
Georgia.
There's a little spice to that take.
say that?
There's some spice there.
I think I get your point, and I wouldn't technically disagree with you. They rely so much. I mean, Beck, I think, leads the conference in both touchdown passes and interceptions. But
But they can run the ball. You saw that.
Mike was
Take 'em out,
forced.
they can
Mike
run the
Bobo
ball.
was forced to make Georgia different in the second half. Georgia had -2 rush yards in the first half. They had 143 rush yards in the second half.
And they have a defense.
And they do play defense.
Run the ball,
Georgia,
play defense, and they'll be fine.
Georgia is now reliant upon running the football. Oh, gosh. That sounds really, no, not at all scary. Appreciate
like
you coming in. Happy
Yeah.
holidays. We'll
Yeah,
talk
you
soon.
too.
That's Ryan Brewer, Hour 2 coming up. The Black Friday sale may be over, but the sales continue at Cato's Power Equipment. A lot of great gift ideas. In fact, I will tell you all this. Mrs. Phillips was asking me just this weekend, what might you want for Christmas? And I said, well, you know, you can think of a lot of different things, but I'll tell you what you can do. You can go see my guy, Ben Cato, and Matt Stedman at Cato's Power Equipment, because when Elijah and I did a show over there a couple of weeks ago, saw some pretty cool Toro equipment that would really be helpful around the house to make, kind of like with Ryan's fence, to make my wife very happy with how the yard would look. So could be great gift ideas in there. And again, those of you who do this for a living, stop in and see some of the great specials on everything in the store. A lot of great opportunities for you. So make that resolution for the new year to do even more. Whether you do it for yourself, you do it for a living. Cato's Power Equipment, 4012 West Beltline Boulevard.
I think everything's on the table, certainly. You can say what you want. This is the best conference in America. And for us to only have 3 teams in the playoff is a shame. And I don't think you can truly say you got the 12 best teams in the playoff year after year and only three SEC teams are in it when we've won however many of the last national championships. And best of luck to those teams that are playing in it. I hope Tennessee, Georgia, and Texas, one of them goes and wins it all. But I think you've got to look at that, no question about it. Automatic bids. I think everything's on the table. And you go into the playoff and 25 and this year and next year the same or whatever it is, and then you reevaluate going forward. And certainly the leaders across college athletics, the commissioners, the ADs, whoever else will figure out, how to continue to make it better. And this is the first one. It'll be great. I mean, I'm hurt that we're not in it, but I'm excited to watch. And it'll be great for the fans to have home games at the 4 locations. I mean, that's awesome. But like anything, there's always ways to tweak it and make it better, and for everyone. And whether it's the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC, the SEC, the group of 5, whatever it is, let's continue to find ways to make it better. But, you're sitting there watching the rankings come out today, and it's a lot of thoughts going through your head when you see the teams that pop up there.
That is Coach Shane Beamer. Last night's press conference, South Carolina selected for the Citrus Bowl against the Illinois Fighting Illini. As we said, our good friend Andrew Kiddick, the longtime baseball SID at Carolina, went to Illinois and texted him yesterday for the, I call it the Andrew Kiddick or the Andrew Kiddick Classic. And, of course, Coach Stepp up there, coaching wide receivers after leaving Shane's staff for a couple of years here in Columbia. Welcome back in. Hour number 2 of the Postgame Show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios downtown Columbia. The other big news of the weekend for Gamecock football, the departure soon enough here of Dowell Loggins as offensive coordinator. Dowell hired by Appalachian State to be their new head coach. Congratulations to Dowell. If you're like me, this caught you by surprise. And as Ryan Brewer told us last hour, the coaching business, especially at the assistant level and the head coach level too, but the assistant level, it's very transient. This is part of life. And coaches and players all understand that even as they build relationships with one another, it could end at almost any time for a number of reasons. And in this case, Elijah, as you and I mentioned, timing is everything. The App State job is open. That's a great football job and a good conference, a school that cares, a great town to live in. Boone is such a beautiful place. There are a lot of things to like about what Dowell is going to go do. But obviously, at the same time, it raises concerns amongst Carolina faithful because of the relationship that has been built between Dowell and Lenora Sellers. And, Dowell from the get-go has been there teaching, coaching, grooming, whatever, and making sure that skill set was utilized. I think a lot of people, I get it. Again, this happens all across the sport at every level. A lot of fan bases get really agitated, upset, angry, whatever. I can throw a whole bunch of words in there with a coach, with a play caller especially. But I hope most Carolina fans do appreciate and understand just how vital and instrumental Dowell Loggins has been with the growth of Lenora Sellers. Look, obviously, y'all, you've seen it firsthand now. So much of what Lenoris does is a God-given ability, right? But you got to find a way to hone those skills. And Dowell, I think, has done a great job with that. Coach Shula has done a great job with that, too. But they have a fantastic relationship with one another. On that note, before we kind of talk more about it, which one was it? I apologize. Number 8? Yes, number 8, Elijah, on today's list. This is Shane Beamer on having a conversation with Lenoris about Dowell's departure.
There's a lot, I think, that can be as I said, Phil, I was in Atlanta yesterday with a lot of media members, with a lot of people from the SEC office, players and coaches on both teams, fans, and heard from a lot of them about their opinion about Gamecock football, and it was very positive. I think my biggest Biggest frustration right now is maybe just the inconsistencies of what's important. Injuries were a factor last year. Florida State got left out. And I know there were only 4 teams compared to 12. Injuries were a factor last season, but apparently injuries weren't a factor this season when you look at our quarterback situation when he gets hurt on the last play of the LSU game, and we've got 265 yards of offense at that point. And, still had an opportunity to win that game, but that is a factor to me. Is strength of schedule important or not? Is it just important to go win games and it doesn't matter who you beat? This year, apparently, that strength of schedule didn't matter because we've got 4 ranked wins in the month of November alone. And there's teams in the playoffs that are over. I think I read that there's 3 or 4 teams that haven't even beaten a ranked team this year, if I'm not mistaken. So how are they going to look at strength of schedule? I know the chairman.
All right, apologies. Our computer is messing with us in terms of the cut number that I have in front of me on a piece of paper.
We're operating very smoothly.
And so before that went any farther, because that's a long cut, I'm not even sure which one that is.
Oh, we still had like 90 seconds.
Yeah, when you told me it still has 90 seconds ago, we realized I think that might be cut 12, which is a 3-minute cut. So I apologize. We'll try to figure out.
There's an imposter among us.
Yeah, there's that's not quite what I was going for there, but there is a cut in here that we'll get to. But no, in all seriousness, look, that you can overcome this. But
certainly,
I didn't always like some of the things. Like I said, I understand fan frustration, but I hope and I think most Gamecock fans this season have understood the slow burn, if you will. Is that a fair way to say it? In terms of making sure you can't throw the whole playbook at a freshman. I don't care how good he is. All right? I don't care if it's Peyton Manning in the mid-90s at Tennessee. You can't throw everything at him and say, here, now go do it right. And I think a lot of fans early, and I get it, everybody got spooked in that Old Dominion game because Old Dominion came here to play. And it wasn't like South Carolina went,
And your only touchdowns were on drives set up by fumbles deep inside Old Dominion's territory.
But, I get it. And then the Kentucky game was better, but then Lenore's got banged up a little bit. And then LSU, and you get banged up a little bit more. And it was just, it didn't, again, I keep coming back to this. The Alabama game was absolutely the turning point for Lenore Sellers. Other than 2 self-inflicted miscues, he played very well. And yes, those 2 self-inflicted miscues were
costly,
very costly. And if you want to add a third in terms of sailing the 2-point try, basically into the bleachers, not quite, but pretty close, then there's that one too. But he also played really well for a large portion of that game and hit some big throws and made some big runs.
Boy, wasn't that broken tackle in the backfield where he rolls out after breaking that tackle and finds Larvadan down the sideline is maybe a smidge higher. Larvadan didn't catch it, hit it in the hands.
Right.
But isn't it crazy to think back on the season now and look at that play and be like, what the type of omen that was for what would happen the rest of the season and the rabbits he'd pull out of his hat? But
I think, that's a great point, man. But anyway, from that point on, you saw it all begin to click, and that Dowell and Lenoris were on the same page, and Dowell understood where things could happen. And we talked about it with Shane. You and I did last week when he was on the show with us on the winning touchdown at Clemson. Yes, it was a Lenoris Sellers scramble, but it wasn't designed that way. It was designed, obviously, on 3rd and long to be something where you're going to put the ball in the air. And you can see Lenoris going through the progressions. And Shane even mentioned he kind of had Harbor open. But maybe he didn't trust it quite well enough. But you saw him go through it and then say, you know what, the heck with this. And that's great. He went through it. Whereas maybe early in the season, it was a reversion to some of the things he was able to do in high school. I'm better than you. I'm going to run. Now, at least, he's able to process all of it and still say,
I'm better than you. I'm just going to take off.
Right.
Good luck tackling me.
Right. Yeah. So I do think that part of it, but Dowell has set him up nicely, and I'll be really interested to see what direction Shane wants to go. An outside voice, an inside voice, some combination of the two. Short term, I don't know that it matters that much. You could probably, and again, I don't know who's going to call plays in the bowl game yet. But if it is Mike Shula, who's got plenty of experience, then they know what's up.
Yeah, and he knows them. That's the thing. Like Mike knows this offensive staff, this offensive personnel well enough to be able to make something happen. He's been coaching in football long enough to where if you give him play calling responsibilities for a game, I don't think he completely blows it, right? And that's the good thing about these bowl games too, is that maybe you have a little more room for creativity because there's not as much pressure because there is no game after this, right? Like whatever Mike can kind of unload the clip on whatever he has in terms of things he's always wanted to run with this offense, because any type of coach, right? Even if you're not calling the plays, he's probably watched this and be like, man, I'd love to try to implement this. We just never got to do it this year. Maybe you can do it for this final game. But I think it'd be fine for the bowl game for Mike to be able to call the plays and then have a larger picture. My big thing is on the offensive coordinator search after this is what type of offensive coordinator do you bring in? Do you bring in one who likes to do a lot of the similar stuff, some triple option stuff, who has a history of running offenses with predominantly scrambling quarterbacks and a lot of triple option type stuff, RPO actions, things like that? Or do you maybe just get somebody who just is really good at scoring a lot of points?
Yeah.
Like the UNLV wanted to be a fascinating, like that's a certain type of offensive coordinator hire, right?
Well, and how much input, I think it's fair to ask, how much input might Shane give Lenoris, not in terms of the interview process, whatever. Shane's going to make this decision, obviously, in conjunction most likely now with Jeremiah Donati in terms of what kind of budget Carolina can have. But I think Carolina will be able to afford pretty much any OC they may want to go get. But, hey, Lenoris, do you want to continue to be what we would label a dual threat? Do you want to start putting the ball in the air a little bit more often? Might it depend as well, Elijah, at least in the next couple of weeks, on any kind of hooks they put in the water about what kind of tailback they might go get in the portal or what kind of receiving depth they might add in the portal, things like that. I don't know. And how quickly some of these things can do. Or do you just, to your point, do you just make up your mind, if I'm Shane, I want a guy who, and however many boxes Shane may want to check, who does this, 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 and this, and then I'm going to go find that guy. And, of course, we know he has to fit with what Shane wants from a cultural standpoint because, to be perfectly fair, and I had somebody hit me with this on Twitter, the first guy, who, again, was not his first choice, but the first OC here did not fit.
Nope.
And the second guy clearly did. And so, and I don't anticipate that Shane has to go through that again this time. Last time it was, when he hired Satterfield, it was, no pun intended, a scramble.
Because he was blindsided.
Yeah. This time, Shane will be able to pour through resumes.
The best thing that could happen was that Dowell made this decision and got hired by App State.
Yeah.
In the moment he did.
Yeah. Gamecock Larry wants to talk, and we'll do that on the other side of the break for you. We got a lot of things to get to when it comes to the national scene as well, and we got some hoops to talk about as well. Both teams winning this weekend, and Dawn's team yesterday.
They're a buzzsaw still.
Texas Christian's in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeesh.
They did this to another top 10 team.
Yeesh.
And they didn't let back up.
No.
Kind of like they did against Duke.
I think the wake-up call happened. Everybody else is going, dadgummit, UCLA. Right. Not thanks.
But way to go.
803-404-6100. Plenty more to do on this Reaction Monday postgame show.
My friends at Prize Picks, they love promotions, and they have a hell of a promotion for you this month. They're calling it Pickmas because you've heard me all season long talk about how on Prize Picks you just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Well, they're upping the ante a little bit, right? We're now offering more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 200 times your cash. So you can make your holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks. It's the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. And I've been telling you all football season too that Jalen Hurts more on rushing touchdowns is as easy as it gets, right? That's been my go-to all year long. You can do the same. And now that the stakes are raised a little bit, you can win more cash on Prize Picks this month than you have been able to do before. So just remember that advice. Go download the app today. Use promo code 1075GAME to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, promo code 1075GAME. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Welcome back into the Postgame Show. 19 minutes after 4 o'clock on this Monday afternoon. A happy holidays to all. Hope your football weekend went well. No Gamecock football. Gamecock men's basketball beat ECU over at CLA. A lot of letters out there.
Slow start.
And then USC beat TCU in the DFW. See what I did there? Thank you.
That's a lot of letters.
Thank you.
They're covering almost the entire alphabet.
Y'all give me another chance. I'm sorry.
Boo this man.
Sorry. All right, we in the break, we almost got our cut list lined up.
I need the Rosetta Stone, I think, to help us.
But will Dowell Loggins be coaching in the bowl game? Was one of the things that we were going to let you listen to, and now you can hear it.
I'd say it's a little bit of both. Our initial conversations yesterday were he wanted to stay and coach in the bowl, and my initial thoughts yesterday were that I wanted him to as well. But there's also, this was before he announced the job, and as he's finding out what I found out when Coach Tanner offered me the job 4 years ago, last Thursday or Friday, whatever it was, there's a lot that comes at you when you say yes and it gets announced that you don't expect. And he's realizing that right now, and it's a lot. It was hard for me balancing being the head coach and going back to Oklahoma to coach the tight ends in the Big 12 championship game against Iowa State. There was a lot on my plate. He's an offensive coordinator doing the same thing in an era of transfer portal and NIL, which I didn't have to deal with when I first got hired. There was a portal, but it wasn't quite like it is right now as well. So we don't have to decide anything right now. We'll see how he handles this transition, and I want to do what's best for him, and I want to do what's best for our program also. So those are all things that we're working through. But initial conversations were, finish this thing out, which Kirby did when he took the Georgia job, and Dan did when he took the Oregon job, and I'm sure there's others that I'm not thinking of.
And then, of course, and I'm being a smartass when I say this, and there's Brian Kelly.
He says, all right, see you, kids.
Screw y'all. I'm out.
Good luck.
Doesn't even mic drop, Of course, the worst example, well, it's not quite the same, but is still our boy Bobby Petrino, right? Taping a note to the door.
Taping a note, yeah.
Although they say that's myth. But you know what? I'd rather take it as fact.
Yeah, I'll assume.
Yeah.
I like to assume.
Yeah. Or as a judge would say, I'll allow it. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if Dowell Loggins, it is a lot. And you just wonder in the next couple of days, I suppose you make the decision. I imagine there's going to be a lot of pressure on him because App State is used to winning 10 games. And I think this year they were, 5-6, 5-7, something.
They weren't very good.
Yeah.
They were very
There's a reason that they are hiring a new head coach. So he'll have a lot to put on his plate real quick. But at the same time, being able to coach and sort of launch the next phase of a quarterback's career in a New Year's Day game, in this case, New Year's Eve, typically New Year's Day game.
Yeah.
Although I guess that's going to go by the wayside now.
The best bowl games being on New Year's Day?
Yeah. Best actual bowl games because, again, I don't want to count. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to count playoff games. They're bowl games nominally. They're not bowl games because there's not finality. Well, there's finality for the loser.
Yeah, for them.
But there's not finality in the bowl game
itself.
Right. So, to me, that's what a bowl game is. It's the last game of the season for both schools. Right? That's what a bowl game is.
Well, playoff games are just neutral site games with fancy sponsors.
Yeah. But again, Carolina installed as a 10-point favorite over the Fightin' Illini. New Year's Eve, we'll have all-day coverage for you.
We will.
And you're heading down there.
I'll be there. I will be in Orlando.
Now, let's see. Kickoff is at 3. That means you should be done with post-game coverage, press conferences by 8.
More than likely.
So my recommendation is that could put you from the Citrus Bowl Stadium, from whatever they call it now.
Camping World Stadium.
To Epcot for New Year's. It'll take you in traffic. It'll take you about 20 to 30 minutes. That's my recommendation.
Easy.
But there are other places in Orlando that will have a good time on New Year's Eve. But I've done New Year's Eve in Epcot twice. And I'm not going to lie to you, man. The fireworks show,
pretty damn good.
It's something else.
Pretty good.
And they have booze.
Most importantly.
Yep.
I think that's how you can get a grown Elijah Campbell there. I think.
So, just saying, because you hadn't been to Epcot in a while.
I mean, I haven't been to Epcot since I was 13, 14 maybe.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Long time.
Yeah. It's fun. But 3 hours, I don't know, because it might still cost you like one of your limbs to get in on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 4 of them. I just
That's
decide
true.
which one I don't use. I don't use my left hand a lot. So.
I don't think they have like a half-day rate. I don't know if they do or not. I don't honest to God, I do not know. Maybe if you get into Epcot after 6, if they can, you should be able to get in because it's a big park. Like you probably couldn't get into the other ones because they're much smaller, like from a geographic standpoint. But Epcot is so massive that they usually don't run out of room. But having been to Epcot on like off days and on New Year's Eve, let me tell you, man, it's hard to move, but it's a lot of fun. I'm just gonna say it's a lot of fun.
It does sound like a lot of fun.
Let's see what Gamecock Larry has planned for New Year's Eve and into the 2025 season. Larry, how are you, sir?
Well, they let me come home after 8 days in the hospital, but I'm going to make a few predictions, and now I'll let you know who's going to be the national champion.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. I think Clemson, Indiana, and SMU, and they'll be knocked out in the first round. And Georgia is going to win the national championship, and Carolina got the best bowl game. So I think the Gamecocks going to win, and they're going to be the number 4 team in the NCAA when the season's over. And let me tell you, Dawn got them Lady Gamecocks riled up. We just waiting for UCLA to lose the game, and we're going to be number 1. If we play them again, we'd beat them by 20. That's all.
All right, Larry. Well, I'm glad you're back home, and hope you feel better. Merry Christmas to you. We love you, and we'll talk again. I don't know if I share his optimism on being a top 5 team at the end of the season at a 10-3 mark. Should South Carolina beat Illinois?
Top 10, maybe.
But I could see them getting. I was going to say getting close to the top 10. What were they in the ranking? 15.
Yeah, 15.
So
lay the lumber on Illinois.
I could see that. I haven't made my predictions yet. I don't disagree with the notion that Georgia could be the national champion. I mean, here's the thing, Elijah. I know you're not as old as I am, but you've covered this league long enough, and you've certainly seen this, if you will, iteration, the Kirby Smart era of Georgia football. There's a lot of folks, Georgia fans primarily, I would say, who believe this has been a bad year for Georgia football. And yet, they are number 2 in the country and the SEC champion. And they can't run the ball very well, right?
No. They turn the ball over a lot.
Yeah, and yet here they are, right? So if this is a bad Georgia football team, and again, a lot of Georgia fans will tell you it is. Forget about their haters, okay? Forget about Auburn or Tennessee or Bama or Clemson or Carolina fans that don't like Georgia or Florida. Georgia folk are saying, we're not very good this year. That would scare the heck out of me.
I don't like that.
Yeah, that would scare the heck out of me if I'm one of those haters. So we'll see. But I could see, again, I like Georgia's draw.
I don't like it if they have to play Notre Dame.
Where's that game? Which quote bowl game is that one?
Toilet bowl? I don't know.
I don't either. Hang on. I'll look.
I forget which.
Oh, you know what? You know what? This is even better for Georgia, in my opinion. You know which one it is?
The Peach Bowl?
Sugar Bowl.
Sugar Bowl.
Sugar Bowl.
New Orleans.
SEC champion. Back in the day.
The way the Lord intended it to be.
Back in the day. Yeah, which one's the Peach Bowl? That's Arizona State and the Clemson, Texas winner. Man, they really should have looked at the geography of some of these, yeah?
And not had it to a tie into a certain seed.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
Oregon
you have Arizona State play in the
Bowl.
Fiesta Bowl, right? 803-404-6100. We'll have more from Shane and what's going on around the college football playoff when the postgame show returns. Well, listen, however you're going to watch the college football playoff here in the coming weeks, or the pro football playoffs, or basketball season, or holiday movies and shows, or whatever you want to do it all better with integrated media, all right? There's another New Year's resolution. I don't want to rush our lives away in terms of holiday season, but let's face it, the big day is only 2 weeks away. 2 weeks and change. 803-948-8327. Now's a great time to get integrated media into the house and make that New Year's resolution to watch and listen to everything you do better than ever. Plus, you can control everything from an app on your phone. You could leave the office, right before you do. Turn the thermostat back up or down, depending on the time of year. Know where your favorites are for your music, right? Or a TV show, the news, whatever you want to do. And then when you walk in the house, it's like you never left. And yet you did. You can do it outside, too. I can't say enough great things about integrated media. 803-948-8327. They'll change your life. Integrated media.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon, starting with one on Clemson Road at Summit Parkway. Another one on Dutch Fork Road, Highway 76 near US 176 and Broad River Road. Got one on Emmanuel Church Road near Old Barnwell Road. Another minor one on Highway 1 and Augusta Road near Sparkleberry Lane. Killian Road at US 21 and Wilson Boulevard. Polo Road at Two Notch Road and Western Lane at Coon Road.
Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you on this Monday, 803-404-6100 to be part of the program. Do want to remind you the craft beer card is only $59, brand new ones. You're saving about $300 on some fantastic craft beer offerings all across the Midlands of South Carolina. If you know that beer connoisseur in your life,
Me.
go to 1075thegame.com,
It's
click
me,
on
right, for me.
Sweet Deals,
Sweels.
and grab a couple of them. at $59, it's a heck of a value. Just saying. I don't know if I made it clear enough that I was talking about. Well, I'll talk about both of us.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you'll take one too.
Sure.
But I'm sure people are listening like, wow, I'd love to buy that for Elijah for Christmas. And I want to end up getting a lot of these in the mail.
Yeah, there you go.
That's my expectation. Don't let me down.
No. Why would they? I think you deserve it.
I think our listeners love me enough.
I will tell you this much, though. You can't take it to Epcot.
Yeah, it won't work there.
No, it won't work there. They don't like to do stuff for free down there. Or discounted even.
They don't at all.
Unless it's like the last week of January.
That is the greediest mouse ever.
the last week of January, you can get some discounts on hotels. That's it. That's like the 1 week a year.
Boo. Shame on them.
It is fun, though.
Stupid mouse.
It is
Fight
fun.
'em.
Have fun down there. I've not been to that stadium since they renovated it. Have I ever told you the story of? I'll tell y'all real quick. So, the Nebraska game, Carolina, Nebraska, Citrus Bowl, 2011 season.
That was back when it was still the Capital One Bowl, wasn't it?
Yeah, same bowl in terms of stature,
Yeah.
but yeah, different name. So Langston and I were on 3 hours before, and Brent and everybody, the whole crew. And I got to the stadium about 4 hours before kickoff, okay? Not lying. My wife is driving me, and about 2 blocks before we get to the parking lot, and by the way, there's hardly any activity at all 4 hours beforehand. I guess Gamecock fans and Nebraska fans were somewhere else. A chicken runs across the road. Not lying.
This is the start of some type of sick joke, isn't it?
You'd think so, but it's not. So I have to like kind of worm my way in, right? And I finally get it. I'm like, yeah, hi. I'm part of the Gamecock Radio Network crew, and we have a pregame show. Because Todd and Tommy don't go on until an hour before, so they don't arrive when the rest of us arrive. There's nobody upstairs, and the press box has not, like, so I said, well, I need to go to the South Carolina radio booth, please. And so someone finally takes me, but it's like somebody on the, I don't know, it wasn't somebody official, but it was somebody that worked there. I get there, man. I don't know if they forgot there was a bowl game that day. But and I don't know why for bats they use this word relative to words for other animals, but there was bat guano all over the area where I was going to be working and where ultimately Todd and Tommy would be setting up their stuff. So they have to call someone in. And bats living like right above the ceiling. And it's just it's all over the place, man.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm serious when I say, I even said to one person, like, y'all did know there was a game today, right? And the guy was like, yeah, I don't know if they just didn't come in. And I'm like, I think the guy was mildly embarrassed.
Mildly.
I think he
Maybe
was.
in his head was like, I didn't realize there was a game today.
I don't know. But, I mean, seriously, dude, I had to wait. We got it done. Thank God I got there, an hour before the show started, which at that time, I think that was 8 o'clock in the morning, which I know is early, but still, you got South Carolina playing Nebraska on a nationally televised broadcast, right? Like this is not some cable outlet. This was ABC or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, that was a pretty big premiere.
And, Florida favorite Steve Spurrier, even if he's coaching in Garnet and Black. Nobody liked Bo Pelini, but that's another story altogether. But anyway, they had to clean up a bunch of bat crap.
That's disgusting.
Yes, it was, man.
That is foul.
And again, I don't know if anybody had been. I don't know when they had last had an event in the press box and or the facility at all. But I really, so like, again, chicken crosses. I was like, where am I? I thought I was in Orlando, Florida, the vacation capital of America. It was crazy, man. But second time around was better for the Wisconsin game. But now they've renovated it and spent money on it. So, like, you'll probably get up there and it'll be all posh.
It'll probably be nice. I mean, it looks nice on the outside. It looks like a solid stadium.
Do me a favor. Ask somebody in the facilities Yeah, you still got a bat problem in one of these?
So I need to look out for bats.
And then you could say, like asking for a friend, and it would be true as opposed to being farcical. You could actually say, yeah, because my co-host actually had to wait for somebody to clean up bat poop
on the day of the game.
3 hours and 45 minutes before kickoff by then.
What other wildlife do you have trapped in the stadium, sir?
I didn't see any rats, which was good.
I mean, bats are basically rats with wings.
Sure. But, anyway, I do remember that. All right. But have fun down there. All right. I'll tell you what, we'll come back around to the national one. Give me, if you would, speaking of the bowl game, cut number 16. This is Shane Beamer on hearing about the selection of the Gamecocks in Orlando.
Couldn't be more fired up about where we're going. If you're not in the playoff, this is the best possible destination to be going to, and it's nothing against any other bowl, but they chose us. And that's a strong statement that after the playoff teams, the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl gets their choice of an SEC team. And there's a lot of SEC teams out there, a lot of them that are ranked that aren't in the playoff. And for them to say, we want the South Carolina Gamecocks is a huge, it's just an awesome statement. And can't thank them enough. And that's what I would say to them is thank you.
I will be honest, because the announcements were a few hours apart from one another, and I imagine a lot of you may have felt this way. I was not convinced, I guess, but in my mind, once we knew Carolina wasn't going to the playoffs, so this wasn't it, but we weren't sure about Alabama and the playoff yesterday. Would the committee still reward what they deemed a better season on SMU's part than Alabama's? And ultimately, as we know now, SMU is going and Alabama is not. And so once I knew SMU was in, I figured, well, the Citrus Bowl will probably take the biggest name they can get that's not in this thing, and that's obviously Alabama. So I was pleasantly surprised, I suppose is the right way to put it. I don't know how many of you felt the same way. Would they want to put Carolina? I know a lot of Gamecock fans. I think, Elijah, didn't you run a poll last week? I mean, I feel kind of bad for the Outback ReliaQuest people, whatever their bowl foundation is called, because I think Gamecock fans, they've enjoyed it. They've been 5 times. They're 4-1 in the game. Again, a generation ago, Carolina fans would have killed for that. But now it's like, well, we'd like to go do something else. And now this will be the 3rd trip to this particular bowl, Carolina 2-0, again, having beaten the aforementioned Nebraska and Wisconsin.
It's not the same now that it's the ReliaQuest Bowl.
No.
I want to play a bowl game where there's someone dressed up as a bloomin' onion on the sideline.
Well,
that's what I want. And then they completely ruined it.
Yeah.
Took that away from us.
I don't know why Outback didn't do it anymore, man. It was like a perfect fit. But anyway, they didn't. But I don't know. Do you feel the same way? Did you think Alabama was going to get that one just because they're Alabama? And like Shane said, it is for those beyond the biggest names. This is the most premier game you can play in.
Well, it doesn't surprise me because I just knew that this fan base would be more excited for a bowl game. Like, dude, when Alabama went to the Sugar Bowl a couple years ago when they missed out on the 14 playoff, again, the Sugar Bowl, one of the greatest bowl games. Like, it used to be the SEC's BCS tie-in. I got tickets for $35 a pop.
Right.
$35 in 2022 to go see the Alabama-Kansas State Sugar Bowl. It did not have there are almost as many Kansas State fans as there were Alabama fans there.
Wow.
Kansas State significantly more excited for that.
Right.
Alabama fans are spoiled to the point of they do not care about bowl games anymore.
Right. That's fair.
So it does not surprise me that they chose a more energized fan base.
Yeah, I agree. I just sometimes is it about, and it is a lot of it, obviously, ticket sales.
Yeah.
Relative to just who's going to watch
And excitement.
our football game on television. Lots more to do as the post-game show rolls on. Welcome back into the postgame show. 11 minutes in front of 5 o'clock here on a Monday. Coming up, headlines of the day. We'll have some sound from Ward Manuel, who is failing to get back into some folks' good graces by stressing that strength of schedule matters.
He's right, though. I think they did.
I think the way you did a great job of it the other day, and it's funny, y'all. This morning, Elijah and I talk every morning before our show, and we typically speak for about at least a half hour. But Elijah I had called him first, and he had something to do this morning, so he called me back, and he called me right when I was listening to Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman's show from this morning.
Serendipitously.
And Ari was basically, I was like, man, Ari was listening to you, Elijah, on our Wednesday or Thursday show last week.
I will be sending him a cease and desist letter.
Explaining how strength of schedule absolutely did factor into the committee's decisions, but based on the number of 3-loss teams that, again, weren't part of the discussion at all, which were several. That are ranked, but were not part of the discussion. But South Carolina and Alabama and Mississippi were part of the discussion because of their strength of schedule.
Yep.
And that's now kind of borne out. So, again, I know it doesn't make anybody feel any better, and that's not what either one of us are trying to do. Again, be disappointed because it's disappointing. But
yes.
I agree with a lot of fans as well, and I've heard from a mix of you. Like, but the refrain I would tell you to buy into, in my opinion, I mean, I'm not telling anybody what to do, obviously, but do your best as time goes on in these next couple of weeks. Do your best to realize this is a hell of a season for South Carolina football, and that you're not bumped your head on the ceiling as of yet when you kind of look at what's out there. But however good or bad they were, you never played Oklahoma before, and you went to their place and you beat the hell out of them.
You did what the one team that was the first out of the college football playoff, mighty Alabama, could not do.
Yeah, could not do. You beat Kentucky for a third straight year, and you sort of reasserted yourself. You knocked that Missouri monkey off your back. You beat the heck out of Texas A&M. And most importantly for a lot of you, depending on how you look at it anyway, you went to Clemson and won, period. Don't care how, don't care what the score was, don't care what it looked like, don't care blah, 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 blah. 3 zeros on the clock. Quarter 4, final score, Gamecock victory. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. So
got that monkey off your back.
And now you get to go to, again, the premier bowl game outside of the New Year's Six.
If I asked you, Jay, that when we were at SEC Media Days, I'd plop back down, sit next to you and say, hey, look, you have 2 choices. We can roll the dice again, or you can be 9-3 going into the Citrus Bowl and play that game. You'd be like, okay, 9-3 Citrus Bowl.
9-3 Citrus Bowl with a win in Norman and a win in Clemson. Yeah. I'm signed up, man.
Especially the Clemson win. Let's not look past that. That was still very special.
I'm absolutely signed up. By the way, I'm also signed up for this. I hold right here. This is gonna be loud. The sheet with the wild card showdown from the weekend. It was a good weekend. It was a good weekend for everybody. James went 3-1-1. He pushed the Detroit Green Bay game. Jim went 3-2. Elijah Campbell went 3-2. It's a good week.
It was solid.
Jay Phillips went 5-0.
He went 5-0 for you on a recorded message.
On a recorded live message, recorded message.
Went 5-0 for you on a recorded message.
Side, total, monster game.
Let's give it up.
Confirmed analysis.
This
Thank you.
This analysis is
Thank
confirmed. Look at him. It's confirmed.
5-0 for you on a recorded and live message. I got the Georgia game, the Clemson game, Arizona State, Oregon, Seattle. The tiebreaker was passing yards for Carson Beck, but he got hurt. If it had been needed,
you would have. Jim would have had that.
Jim would have had it. He was close because I think it ended up being like 50-something.
UNLV.
It was a terrible first half. But with the 5-0 to Elijah's 3-2, I have now pulled ahead by 2 games. We still got a long way to go. We got playoffs, both college. We got some NFL. We'll take this thing. The final one will be a Super Bowl prop bet kind of a situation. But right now, yours truly against the spread, 41-33-1 to Elijah's 39-35-1. So at 41-33-1, I'm starting to at least get my dinner paid for in Vegas.
Yeah. Oh, certainly. Well, you're getting a meal, but it depends on where you go, though. I mean, it depends on what buffet you're trying to frequent here.
Yeah.
Because there are levels to it. There are some that
I'd rather go to one of those steakhouses, man. And my wife and I forget the name of the place. We went to a really high end Chinese, super man, it was phenomenal. It was in the Mirage, and we went to one of the steakhouses. Went to buffet for lunch one time. That's too much food. I can't do that. I can't eat that much food. I wish I could. Hour 3 coming up.
I can. I just shouldn't.
Cato's Power Equipment, 4012 West Beltline Boulevard. Yes, the Black Friday sale is over because, it's not Black Friday or Thanksgiving week anymore. Instead, we're just into the full-on holiday season. But still, so many fantastic opportunities for you over at Cato's. You've heard Ben talking about some of this big, for those of you in the business especially, this Gravely zero-turn, 50-plus inch, battery-powered, it's awesome. And again, if you just want to feel like you're a character in Star Wars or some other sci-fi movie while you're actually, doing your job, this is the one for you. But as Ben and Matt have both said on something like this, with a lot more battery-powered things that have a lot of potential, there's a lot less to break. That means you don't have as much downtime. You got more uptime. That means you are making more money. There's great gift ideas in there, too, for that home landscaper, the professional, whatever it is that you might need. They've been doing it for more than 40 years. 4012 West Beltline Boulevard, and always online at catospowerequipment.com.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways, starting with one on Dutch Square Boulevard at Bakersfield, Hard Scrabble Road at Summit Parkway, I-20 westbound at Longs Pond Road near exit 51, Polo Road at Two Notch Road, and on Western Lane at Coon Road.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Monday. Welcome back in. It's also the final hour of the postgame show. Along with Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. We start here locally with South Carolina being invited to take on Illinois in the Citrus Bowl. That'll be New Year's Eve. That's Tuesday this year. New Year's Eve down in Orlando. A 3 o'clock kickoff. As it stands right now, South Carolina, a 10-point favorite in this game. The over-under at 47.5%, and the FPI gives South Carolina about a 72% chance to win the ball game.
Sounds accurate.
Probably so. Again, I think this is probably from a Vegas perspective with what rosters look like today. Will they look different in a couple of weeks? I think the answer is yes. How much differently for both schools remains to be seen. Shane Beamer says already, though, this year, not seen a whole lot of the Illini.
Really haven't seen them a lot, David. I watched a little bit of their game, either in a hotel or at home when they played Oregon. Maybe saw some of that game. They played somebody, I want to say they played either on a first game of the season is maybe on a Thursday night or a Friday night or something, and I've seen them a little bit just on television, but haven't dove deep into their team. But obviously they're in a great league, a league that got 4 teams in the playoff, and they found a way to be one of the best teams in that conference. So that we know they'll be tough, physical, Big Ten football team.
Committee ranks them number 20 going into bowl season. They are 9-3, and we were looking at the statistics a little bit earlier. Obviously, we'll have a lot more time over the next couple of weeks to break this game down and get some perspective from Champaign. But they run the ball about 150 yards a game.
Solid.
It is. That said, their quarterback has been sacked 31 times, and they only throw the ball for a shade over 200 yards a game. So you do feel like South Carolina's defense, as it is currently constructed, would have a nice opportunity to create some havoc in the offensive backfield of the Illini. But again, I'm not predicting any of that yet, but there's a reason South Carolina is installed as a pretty heavy favorite.
And it is a team coached by Brett Bielema.
Yeah.
So I think you already have a good, accurate mental image of what this team wants to do and does in your head. And I would say whatever that mental image is you correct.
Well, I think Brett Bielema.
Does he wear a shirt for this game?
Yes, he will. I think he'll have a shirt. It'll be probably nice in Orlando. That could be in the 50s or 60s, maybe the 60s. But I don't think he likes to throw the football. I think he understands he has to throw the football from time to time in the modern game.
It probably took a lot of convincing to get him to even do it to begin with.
But I don't think he likes to do it. Shane was also asked about what he is hearing around ticket sales for South Carolina's fan base.
I know we're already excited. Coach Tanner was just telling me at the awards banquet across the street that we've already sold out of our initial allotment, and we've already had to call back down to Orlando and ask for more tickets as well. And based on the number of people outside of coaching that are friends of ours here in Columbia that Emily's told me about, there's a lot of people that have already booked plane tickets and hotels to go down there as well. So we certainly need to take over Orlando like we did Jacksonville a couple years ago.
So there you go. Already need more tickets. That's good. It's fun. Last time, Carolina's been down there twice, and both wins, obviously, both fun games. Although I remember that Wisconsin game was kind of cold and rainy. You think Florida's supposed to be great all the time. It's really not always. But it's good. That's good. Of course, the other big news, and it ties in here. The other big news around Gamecock football this weekend is the announcement that Dowell Loggins, Carolina's offensive coordinator, play caller, quarterbacks coach, will become the new head coach at Appalachian State University. Really happy for him. So is Shane Beamer.
Looking back to yesterday, excited for Dowell. Great compliment to him, testament to him. Fired up for him and Beth to get the opportunity to go to a great program up in Boone and become a head coach. And he would be the first to tell you it's a credit to the players and staff here at Carolina, but he's worked really, really hard for the opportunity. And like I told him, based on the way that we played offensively at the end of the season and Lenoris as a quarterback, there were going to be other opportunities. And for him, don't just take the first one, make sure it's the right one. And he went up to Boone and spent the night a couple nights ago. And he called me yesterday and, told me that he really felt it was the right one and this was the direction that he was going. So wish him well.
I think everybody does. Now, the bigger question for Gamecock fans in the short term, will Coach Loggins be with the Gamecocks for the game against Illinois?
I'd say it's a little bit of both. Our initial conversations yesterday were he wanted to stay and coach in the bowl, and my initial thoughts yesterday were that I wanted him to as well. But there's also, this was before he announced the job, and as he's finding out what I found out when Coach Tanner offered me the job 4 years ago, last Thursday or Friday, whatever it was, there's a lot that comes at you when you say yes and it gets announced that you don't expect. And he's realizing that right now, and it's a lot. It was hard for me balancing being the head coach and going back to Oklahoma to coach the tight ends in the Big 12 championship game against Iowa State. There was a lot on my plate. He's an offensive coordinator doing the same thing in an era of transfer portal and NIL, which I didn't have to deal with when I first got hired. There was a portal, but it wasn't quite like it is right now as well. So we don't have to decide anything right now. We'll see how he handles this transition, and I want to do what's best for him, and I want to do what's best for our program also. So those are all things that we're working through. But initial conversations were, finish this thing out, which Kirby did when he took the Georgia job, and Dan did when he took the Oregon job, and I'm sure there's others that I'm not, thinking of.
We'll have more on that from Shane's perspective in terms of how this affects Lenoris and the team coming up for you in just a little bit. Continuing our integrated media headlines of the day. By now, all of you, at least most of you, should have seen the announcement of the college football playoff. Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, Arizona State. Those are your top 4 seeds. The rankings look a little bit different, obviously, but those are the top 4 seeds based on how the rules of the college football playoff are applied. Clemson, as the champion of the ACC, actually comes in as the 12 seed in this one based on where Clemson was ranked, certainly behind both Arizona State and Boise State. Again, top 4 ranked conference champions get those top 4 seeds, so it's not all about the rankings. Oregon will see the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee, that game in Columbus on the 21st. Georgia will get the winner of Notre Dame and Indiana, that one in South Bend on a Friday night in South Bend. Man, at least play that game in the daytime. It's going to be cold up there on the lake, man.
Oh, but that in prime time is going to be beautiful.
That's what they wanted,
that
right?
That one is going to be beautiful.
Can I say real quick here, we talked about this earlier with Ryan Brewer, but I just want to interject real quick. Again, a lot of Big Ten fans, especially some Boise fans, and I feel kind of bad for the Boise folk because I think they really wanted a home game. I think all these schools should want a home game.
Oh, the coaches are probably cool with an automatic advancement.
Maybe so. But you probably wanted to see, if you're one of those northern schools, even if all those Big Ten folk hate Notre Dame, you probably wanted to see an SEC school there instead of a team from your own state. And then Ryan and I were joking. We were like, I bet you the bulk of both of those rosters aren't from Indiana.
Probably not.
I don't know that the state of Indiana churns out tons of high school talent.
In football.
Right, in football. Right. I mean, I'm sure they have some great kids. But I would also imagine that the majority of great high school football players in Indiana ply their trade at Ohio State or Michigan.
Yeah, probably. If those schools come knocking,
I mean, Notre Dame comes to get you if you know.
Notre Dame might have the best case for being able to rack up all the best local talent.
But while Notre Dame geographically located in Indiana, you don't really always think of Notre Dame as an Indiana school.
I rarely do.
Yeah, it's just a national brand. You think of Clemson or Auburn as schools in their state.
I feel like Notre Dame's its own state. It's the state of NBC.
Well, pretty much.
And that's just the capital.
Pretty much. Anyway, so Georgia will get that winner. Again, that game on the 20th, Friday night. Boise will get the winner of Penn State and SMU. That one's in State College on Saturday the 21st. And Arizona State will get the Texas Clemson winner. That game in Austin also on the 21st. A couple of college football notes for you. We'll have more on the playoff coming up, so I'm not just glossing over the rest of the playoff. Actually, let me get one real quick. Cut 25, right? This is Ward Manuel on how SMU got the final nod over Alabama.
We looked at the number of wins that Alabama had against ranked opponents. We looked at SMU's schedule, and they were undefeated in conference. Their losses were to ranked teams. But we also looked at Alabama's loss to unranked teams. And it was quite a debate. I mean, we value strength of schedule. That's why Alabama, as a 3-loss team, is ranked ahead of other teams that have 2 losses. It is something that we talk about quite a bit. But in the balance of it, in the way SMU played in that game, losing on the last-second field goal, great win by Clemson, great game, we just felt that in this particular case, SMU still had the nod at 10 above Alabama. But it's no disrespect to Alabama's strength of schedule. It's merely looking at the entire body of work for both teams.
I think it's fair. Again, and fair and unfair, as I often say, are very subjective. But SMU lost twice, including their championship game, by a combined 6 points. And as he mentioned, they only lost to ranked teams.
Their loss to BYU was without their starting quarterback that they use now.
Yeah. And Clemson and BYU are ranked 16 and 17 in the committee's final poll. So, and again, Alabama, listen, I get the Carolina fans. I honestly think there are times, other than the head-to-head, which makes it difficult, Carolina doesn't have a bad loss. Again, Carolina's, if you will, worst loss is to an 8-win LSU. Alabama lost to Vandy and Oklahoma, who are both going to bowl games, but who Alabama was heavily favored to beat. And when Alabama went to Nashville, they were the number 1 team in the country. You gotta win that football. And you just beaten Georgia. You got to win that football game.
Give up 40 to them.
Yeah.
And they want to complain. Here's the thing with Alabama complaining about scheduling that I find to be really ironic. You got a break in your conference schedule where you got to play Vanderbilt, who's projected to be the worst team in the conference, the one who historically is the conference's doormat, right? In a way, getting Vanderbilt on your schedule is the SEC helping you out a little bit because they preserved the rivalry with Tennessee.
Right.
They made you host Georgia. Congratulations on winning that game. And you had to play Oklahoma later in the year, which they thought would be a little tougher than it was.
Yeah.
So that almost was a concession of getting to have Vanderbilt in the schedule. And you gave up 40 and lost the game.
And 12 of 18, Vandy
40.
was on third down.
40 points.
Yeah.
And, arguably one of the deciding scores of that game was you throwing a pick six.
Right.
So there was a lot of you shooting yourself in the foot in that game as well.
So I know a lot of you, again, we're not here to make you feel better. That's not our job. And the disappointment is real for everybody around the program. But Carolina, Mississippi, and Alabama were in the discussion in ways that others weren't with better records or the same record because of their strength of schedule. I mean, again, Missouri, Illinois, Iowa State wouldn't have been in the discussion overall as a 9-3 team. They got to play for their conference title.
Syracuse is 9-3.
Syracuse, BYU. BYU's a name brand. They weren't in the discussion for or for the playoff.
If it wasn't for a tiebreaker, BYU would have been in the Big 12 title game,
right.
And they weren't even discussed as even being on the outside looking in for the the last rankings.
We'll have some more on the playoff for you coming up, and finally, I know I don't like the New York Mets.
I don't think you've ever made that clear around here.
I know. But the New York Mets have New York Meted in a way that the New York Mets may have never New York Meted before. The New York Mets signing Juan Soto of the Yankees to a 15-year, $765 million contract.
What the Bobby Bonilla is going on?
It does. Well, his was deferred payments. This one is not deferred. He will be paid all of his money in a 15-year period. He does have an opt-out after 5 years. So we'll see. By that point, he'll be 31 years old. The contract also includes a $75 million signing bonus. And as I said, with maybe a little bit of snark on Twitter earlier today, this immediately vaults the New York Mets into the third best team position in their division. So
Didn't they win the division?
Way to go, Mets. I don't know. they're still not the best team in their division. I'm just saying. They're not.
They did win it.
I don't care. They're still the third best team in their division. That's our integrated media headlines of the day. More on the Gamecocks in the playoffs coming up. Hey, you're not feeling like yourself as you get a little bit older, guys. You're wondering why. You're like, man, I didn't used to feel this way after a workout or just after a long day or any other situation that may arise. So don't wait for it to change. Don't wait for it to get better on its own, because as we age, the odds of that are slim to really non-existent. Instead, you need to go see Dr. Dan Balknight and his team at the Men's Clinic. For years and years, they have been helping hundreds, thousands really, of your friends and neighbors all across the area. All right, this is what they do. They are dedicated to making men feel better. No magic pills, no one size fits all. They get to know you, all right, and then figure out what it is that you're missing and make everything better for you. Call them up, see what they can do for you, and really it's about you and your family. 803-875-MENS. Learn more online, themensclinicsc.com. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you on this Monday. Happy holidays to all. Hope the weekend went well. Gamecock men's basketball took care of East Carolina 75-68, run their record to 6-3. Exams this week. They've got Upstate on Saturday and Clemson next Tuesday. Was doing a show yesterday with my good friend Mike Waddell of the North Carolina Sports Radio Network, not the UNC network, but a network that goes all across the state. And Mike and I were, before we set up, and he won't mind me saying this, I was talking about, like, man, when North Carolina hosts Alabama and loses at home, they probably expect it to be football, not basketball. And he said North Carolina, in his opinion, is at best the fourth best school in the ACC right now. And he said that's at best. Yeah. No, he said at best. I think he thinks they're lower.
I don't know if he realizes how bad the rest of the ACC.
Well, I don't know. That's why he said fourth, but he said Duke is number one, and he said Clemson, in his opinion, is the second best team in the ACC.
Defensively, Clemson really impressed me against Kentucky.
How good is Kentucky is one of the questions that I had to ask. And that game was at Little John, where it's really hard to win, but I don't know yet. I don't know. But Carolina and Clemson played a hell of a game at Little John last season.
They did.
And I know Carolina fans still lament that one. I'm sure that Lamont really would like some of that one back, too. You just a little bit late, just didn't quite get it done. I think that game taught them a lot about themselves, especially road environments. But now you want to try to get it done against Clemson next week.
And that will be a big win for Carolina's resume because Clemson's really good.
They're good.
Their only losses to a good Boise State team on the road, a true road game.
Right.
They beat a good San Francisco team by 15. Penn State might win the Big Ten. I want to brace everybody for that right now. I mean, just stop what you're doing.
That Alabama and Clemson and Penn State
win their respective
are
conferences.
good at basketball like this is crazy. Because Penn State, listen, I've said my whole life.
They're a doormat in basketball forever.
Listen, I think there are only two men's basketball, and I don't mean this to be look. I'm a lifer here, okay? Of major college men's basketball programs, only two in my lifetime I think are worse than South Carolina when it comes to an ability to get to the NCAA's, and it's Nebraska and Penn State.
Yeah,
like there probably is worse. And I just don't. I don't know. But like,
when was the last time they've even been to?
I don't know.
Penn State?
Micah
Shrewsbury in 2023. Duh, I forget. But that was good enough for him to leave.
But anyway, that's the schedule. And then last night, Dawn's team. We were doing a lot with family yesterday, so I didn't get to tune in until the end of the third quarter of this one and realized, okay. It was ugly. I mean, South Carolina was up 21 points at halftime, ended up winning by 33. Yeah. I can't do math. 33.
Ashland Watkins got another dunk.
Well, and at one point they were up by over 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ashland did.
It was a clubbing.
Yeah. So I don't know that this game. I mean, you could say it was as close as a 33-point road win. TCU is currently ranked number 9. It's December rankings. Even January rankings, I don't know.
They're still good teams. I mean, like TCU has one of the older teams in college basketball. I feel like Sedona Prince has been playing college basketball for 20 years now. I feel like she was the one in 2021 who had the video about the weight room situation.
Yeah.
And the bubble for the tournament. She was the one who posted that when she played college basketball with Sabrina Ionescu at Oregon.
Wow.
That's how long she's been playing college basketball. Haley Van Lith also playing a lot of college basketball.
It's still a joke with like some 5-pound hand weights. And I still remember the sign that said sanitized yoga mats. And it looked like something that you would see at like the Super 8. Like even the Hampton Inn is going to have some treadmills.
Yes.
And like one of the machines, or like, that was
an elliptical
brutal.
maybe. Yeah.
It was brutal.
That was bad.
Yeah. Really, pound for pound, one of the more damaging photographs ever in NCAA history. I vividly remember that. Sanitized yoga mats. And then they showed the men's one that looked like, Planet Fitness times 10.
Right. Significantly more stuff.
Free plug for Planet Fitness.
I have a membership.
Oh, there you
should
go.
Probably use it a little more often.
Hey. Should you?
Yeah, maybe.
Remember that Friends episode? I want to quit the gym. And then they bring out the girl into like the leotard. And Chandler's trying really hard. Like, I want to quit the gym. Y'all, if you've seen it, you remember. It was pretty funny. Let's get to John up next here. John, do you have a gym membership and do you use it?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Actually, I was late. I was there at 5:30 this morning at One Life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, over there on Forest Drive.
Yeah,
but,
okay.
Yeah, Monday. Today was International Chess Day, as every man knows.
Sure.
But, obviously I'm disappointed with the playoff seedings and Carolina being left out. Unfortunately, it just is what it is. If a terrible call does not get made against LSU, maybe we're having a different conversation, but at the same time, here's a great opportunity for us to go out and do something that's only been done 4 other times, and that's win 10 games in a season. You look at what this season was compared to where we were a year ago. This program, and I honestly mean it when I say it, has the right guy in place with Shane Beamer, who, it took me a little while, but once I saw what he was building and truly saw how much positive energy he brought into this program, it's hard not to buy in. And you look at where this program is today, it's night and day compared to what it was a year ago. It's night and day compared to what it was 5 years ago. I think that Carolina is on the up and up, hopefully. And look, I think that 2 years ago, they planned horrifically, if even at all, for the portal. This year, I think they have done a much better job with NIL. We saw what they did this year with the portal, going out and getting a top-tier running back, going out and getting elite pass rushers and elite linebackers who have come in the 1 year. For a lot of them who are here, they've made a significant impact the way they have. This is an exciting time. It's an exciting trip to get ready to go to. I've already got my tickets and my hotel booked. I'm looking forward to going down to Orlando again. Hey, Jay, real quick,
yes.
Remember what happened the first time Carolina went to the Capital One Bowl, Citrus Bowl?
Well, I remember a lot of it, so I'm not sure what you want me to focus in on. A fight?
No, I want you to remember the fact that the better team lost, if you remember that.
Oh, yes.
Tim.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I remember being in that press conference, and even the Nebraska beat writers were like, did he really just say that? Bo Pelini did look at everybody.
Yeah, Bo Pelini said a lot of things, Jay. And real quick, I'm just going to channel my inner Coach Spurrier here. To the upstate school, congratulations. You guys earned your ACC championship. I guess we're just going to have to settle with our state championship.
There you go. Well done, John. Well done. Safe travels down there. If we don't talk, I'm sure we'll talk to you before that. Bo Pelini. Nebraska scored near the end of the first quarter and did not score again. And Bo Pelini, whatever, in the postgame presser said to God and everybody, the better team didn't, the better team lost or whatever it was. And like even the Nebraska, because I had gotten to know a couple of the Nebraska guys because they were on the show with Michael and me that week. And they're like, did he really just say that? No. Like, what are you doing, Bo? Like, because it was not the case.
You got it kicked. Like, that wasn't a close game.
No, it really, no. In the end,
football. South
Carolina just was dominant. It took the offense a little time. They had a trick play that day, and it took the offense a little bit of time to get going. And Alshon and I forget their corner's name, who ended up playing in the league for a while too, got into a little
Mukamara?
bit. No, I don't think. Was it? I can't remember now.
What year would this have been?
11.
2011.
11 season, 12 New Year's Day. It could have been. I don't know. But anyway, it might have been Elijah. I can't remember. But they got in a little tussle, and I think were removed. But South Carolina was definitely the better team that day. Drive around the SEC is next. Up, down, hot, cold, right? Well, at least warm. I mean, heck, it's in the 60s today here in Columbia, but you never know what it's going to be, right? And that's why you need to have the peace of mind of a fantastic system from AAA Heating and Air. Now, if your system is currently keeping you comfortable most of the time, but it needs a little tune-up, 803-677-1500. Or maybe the furnace isn't kicking on the way it's supposed to. 803-677-1500. But maybe it's time to make sure you've got long-term peace of mind when it comes to staying comfortable inside the house. And that's why you need to take advantage of some fantastic offers. All right, listen, 100% financing, 12 months, no payments or interest, guaranteed to get you financed, $1,500 system buyback rebate, 15-year parts and labor guarantee on a brand new system. 803-677-1500. Stay comfortable all year and for many years to come with our good friends at AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with many accidents to report to you. They're causing some issues here on the roadways. We'll go ahead and start at the top here with Dutch Square Boulevard at Bakersfield near St. Andrews. Got one on Emmanuel Church Road near South Carolina 602 and Platte Springs Road. One on Hardscrabble Road at Summit Parkway. I-20 westbound at Longs Pond Road near Exit 51. Knox Abbott Drive near 12th Street. Polo Road at Two Notch Road. Trenham Road at Highway 12 and Forest Drive, US 378 between West Main Street and South Carolina 6, and lastly, one on Western Lane at Coon Road.
It is Drive Around the SEC time here on this Monday. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Obviously, the Georgia Bulldogs, the champions of the Southeastern Conference, an overtime thriller against the Texas Longhorns on Saturday, but it came with some bad news for Georgia, and at this point, they're not sure exactly what Carson Beck's future is. According to the latest today, it's an elbow injury. Yeah, many of you saw it. At first, they said hand injury, and it looked like it could have even been maybe a little bit of a shoulder issue, but instead, it is an elbow injury. The university today said there is no timetable for a potential return. According to other sources, including Mark Schleybaugh, ESPN, it says the school is exploring treatment options with doctors. Also, Brett Thorson, their punter, was injured on Saturday. He is one of the best in the country. He suffered a knee injury. It is season ending, so Georgia will be going to a backup punter. Of course, they're the number 2 seed in the playoff. Gunnar Stockton played well, Elijah. And I think for a lot of people, myself included, this is opinion here, it forced Mike Bobo's hand. Georgia was, I mean, when I say terrible, running the football in the first half, they were minus 2 yards.
They were really bad.
I mean, it was awful. Really, the whole first half for both schools was ugly.
Texas outgained them by like 200 yards and then committed 10 penalties.
Texas
kept themselves out of field goal or out of touchdown range, really.
But Georgia does have a very good defense. But then in the second half, Mike Bobo was forced to get creative in terms of finding ways to get Etienne the ball, and he had one big run, like a 40-something yarder.
That made a huge difference.
It did, man.
Had to fake a punt.
Yeah, that was gutsy by Kirby. Beautifully designed, beautifully executed. But I thought Stockton played really well. Then he got his bell rung big time. And ironically, leads Beck to come in, make one handoff, score, game. You know, it was
Texas still had some linebackers playing it as a pass when you know the only thing Carson Beck can physically do is hand the ball off.
I was talking to somebody about that today, and I said, look, if they had put Rashada, excuse me.
Rashada, yeah.
Into the game, then I think Texas knows they're going to hand the ball off. Because at the time, you didn't know exactly how hurt Beck was or what was hurt. Mm-hmm. You might have at least had Texas have to think about it for a second, but I'm with you. I was like, all he's going to do is turn in hand. There's no way he's throwing the football.
Guy stood there on the sideline with his elbow wrapped up in ice. It's no secret what is hurt and what you probably did to him.
Right.
There's no secret what just went down. And if he wasn't good enough to play in the SEC championship game and throw a ball, what makes you think he's going to come in here after sitting the whole half and throw the football? It was wild to me.
I will be surprised at this point if Carson Beck plays in their bowl game. Well, not in their playoff game.
Yeah,
and it's in New Orleans. They're going to call it the Sugar Bowl. It's not the Sugar Bowl
because Allstate's paying good money for it to be played there.
Just call it the Allstate playoff game in New Orleans.
That doesn't have any pizzazz.
No, it doesn't. But it's not the Sugar Bowl.
And
either.
you just saved yourself 3 syllables.
It's not the Sugar Bowl. It's not. It's not the Sugar Bowl.
It is. They pay for it.
Well,
That's
I
capitalism,
guess.
baby.
Yeah, I can name it anything, right?
Yeah. Like calling it the ReliaQuest Bowl instead of the Outback Bowl.
I can't do the full line.
Disgusting to me.
Those of you who are fans of Tommy Boy, you know the line I'm talking about. So I can't use it when it comes to what Tommy could put in a box. But I can name things, a lot of things.
You can. You name it whatever you want.
It's not a
Pay
bowl,
for it.
Not a bowl game. It's not a bowl game. It's a playoff game. It's a playoff game. It's a bigger deal. It's a playoff game.
It's a massive deal.
Yeah, we have a playoffs now. And I swear, and please don't rag on me too much. Yesterday, for just a second, I was reading something, and it said, and the SEC gets 3 teams in. And I was like, no, they only got 2. I kept going, like, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh, Texas made it. Because Texas is in the.
It just still hasn't
for a
sat
second,
in
like
with
it
you,
just
has
wasn't
it?
registering with me as I was looking at teams, and because again I was away from the television.
Real SEC teams.
But I was like, oh, Texas. Like, come on, Jay. Like, it just for a second, it wasn't. I was like, no, they only got Only Georgia, is going, and only who am I missing?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Thank you. That Tennessee game is
Ohio State can get got.
They can, and I like what Tennessee can do defensively. Listen, and I've already talked about this a couple times today. Y'all are going to hear so much from Big Ten folk about how basically this game is going to be played somewhere in like northern Siberia. Okay,
It sound like they're playing it on Hoth.
It's amazing. Again, this is just blowing me away. Again, the cold game is the Notre Dame game, and they're playing Indiana. It's like this is not what we asked for. If you're a Big Ten school, but look, even if this game was in Knoxville, you and I talked about it earlier. Tennessee would be the underdog in Knoxville, not by as many points. But I'm with you. I
don't think it's a great matchup for Ohio State.
Ohio State has played 3.5 good, three good teams, and they beat one of them. And Michigan's good. Oregon's great. That was a heck of a game. Penn State is
good,
very good to good.
I mean, I saw a really funny tweet. It's like Penn State is really funny because that's it's like answering the question, what if a bronze medal was a football team? And that's pretty accurate.
It's fair. I like Aller. I like what they can do, but and I think they'll beat SMU. SMU impressed me then because Clemson, there was a second there when you thought, oh, man, Clemson's going to win like 45-3, aren't they?
SMU in that second half showed what their offense actually is. They got off to a terrible start.
And maybe game. Clemson showed a little bit of what they actually are. You have to ask yourself now. And I had somebody ask me this morning. Did Clemson play its best game of the season against South Carolina and still lose? Probably.
Defensively, maybe. I think you can make that case.
Probably.
And from a game management standpoint, until you had the turnovers. But so honestly, the offense looked fantastic against SMU. They looked.
And it looked pretty good against Carolina in stretches.
Yeah.
But Carolina locked down late.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize, as we said, that Clemson also had 7 drives that went 5 plays or less. Because Carolina actually just looked better ultimately than it felt at times. And I know the last drive got nervy, but doesn't matter, does it? Yeah. But we'll see. But I think Tennessee, you just got to make it a fourth quarter game, right? That's just it. And I expect Texas to beat Clemson, by the way, as we're talking about the 3 SEC schools in the playoff. And that's a heavy – Clemson's a heavy underdog. It'll take Texas.
I think Clemson will cover, though. I think Clemson's too good not to cover like a 2-touchdown.
I was surprised at how big all 4 spreads are, and I got a hunch that all 4 games have the underdog cover.
I definitely lean that way, especially in the larger ones. There's some ghosts with Penn State. Like if Penn State's like what, a 7.5, 8 something point favorite?
Let me double check for you.
Or might even be larger than that. And if that's the case, dude, there are some ghosts in that Penn State team about not being able to win big games that SMU might flirt with hanging around there and making it close. I can't.
Penn State -9. Penn State FPI chance 67.2. -9.
I could see SMU making that a single-digit game.
I can too,
because they can scoot, man. They can score. Red Ashley's are really. There's a reason that team was top 5 in the country in offensive SP plus.
Right,
top 5. It's an offense that belongs and can score on anybody.
That's our drive around the SEC, brought to you by Herndon Chevy. Stop by the showroom, see why Herndon makes you smile, especially this time of year. Come back with some more thoughts on Carolina, Illinois in the Citrus Bowl. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the postgame show here on this Monday afternoon. Jay and Elijah with you tomorrow in the 3 o'clock hour. South Carolina Athletics Director Ray Tanner will be with us. Looking forward to talking with Coach as he is now ready to hand the baton to Jeremiah Donati. We are, as we say in the business industry term here, efforting
hard.
A conversation with Mr. Donati and hope to have him on as soon as possible. I am told he will not be available this week, but we hope to do something next week. But we're trying.
Fingers crossed.
We're
sweet talking him.
Just heard from somebody that's close to the football program that said they were really kind of sweating it yesterday when it came to the invitation. Because really now conferences, SEC is not unique here. Conferences and the office, as y'all know, have really taken a lot of the decision-making process away from the bowls and the lobbying of schools and whatnot, and have decided to try and place teams. You know, there's a lot of different things they might try to use. But I was told that as late as, like 2 o'clock yesterday, give or take, that there was I don't know if concern is the right word, Elijah, but that there was a real feeling that it was going to be Bama in the Citrus, Mississippi in the Tampa Bowl, the ReliaQuest / Outback, and that Carolina was thinking they were going to be headed to either Jacksonville or Nashville. Both are fine towns, but I'm not so sure that Carolina fans would have felt great about that in terms of bowl status.
Yeah, because they're not as prestigious.
Right. And yet what ended up happening was that the Citrus Bowl, according to what I've gathered, basically told the SEC, listen, we want South Carolina. So, we need y'all to give us South Carolina. And
fan base enthusiasm, I guarantee you played a massive, massive role in that.
But I was told, in fact, I'll just say, I was told that Orlando pushed hard, is what I was told. So that's telling. That's very telling.
I just go back to the example of that. I mean, I got tickets to go see Alabama, Kansas State play when I was in New Orleans for New Year's Eve a few years ago. For $35 a pop.
Right.
They were almost to the point of giving them out to go to the Sugar Bowl because Alabama was so unenthusiastic about playing in a non-playoff bowl game, to the point where...
Just give out free beignets.
Pretty much. I mean, that's kind of what it felt like. I mean, I've walked right in there. Didn't have to wait in line to get in. I mean, that was...
Sell beignets at any of the concession stands in the Superdome?
The only thing I can confirm that they sold there was beer. I had a lot of it, and probably maybe a little too much before noon. But
well, I mean, for the $35 ticket price, you probably had a big budget, and you was like, well, I may as well spend it on beer.
I did. That was exactly my rationale. Do you know how many Superdome cups I left there with that day? Too many. I don't want to say it on air, but I left with a lot because I was able to use the money I saved on the ticket to be able to splurge a little bit
you got
inside
out
the Superdome.
Of said Superdome with that many cups, and they were all yours, is probably good.
They give you a souvenir one each time. I've got I've got a healthy amount in my apartment right now.
Were they all Sugar Bowl cups or just various
Well, they're Saints cups. They say Superdome and they have Fleur-de-Lis logos on it. And as a Saints fan, I'm keeping these. I'm absolutely keeping these. So I have just an excess of water cups.
So let's be honest then. What you really just wanted was a bunch of Saints cups, and you just decided to go spend money on a cheap ticket and buy a lot of beer.
Yeah, and somebody had to drink all the beer. Someone had to fall on that grenade. And if I have to be the brave one for all of us, I'm going to do it.
All right, serious question. Do they sell Dixie beer inside the Superdome?
I thought I recall.
No, that's too bad. Because Dixie is one of those long time kind of craft beers, way before it was ever craft beer.
They might have at one point said the Superdome was pretty big.
Yeah.
Pretty big place.
I don't know.
Big
but
palace.
Dixie is brewed down there in New Orleans, and it's tasty, man. But again, kind of always just been sort of a, if you want to call it craft, but it was a thing before, the term craft beer. Yeah, it is, man.
I like that. I like that a lot.
But that's a fine product. But anyway, so
I'll be back one day.
And I got some pretty solid intel on that Carolina was the team that the Citrus Bowl folk really wanted. I couldn't tell you.
Was your source cocky?
Well, he can't talk.
Yeah, well, I beg to differ. He was here in the building for our little Christmas open house. I saw him.
Yeah.
I can't confirm nor deny if he talked. I
Well, that's
swore to
fair.
secrecy.
That's fair. Well, then I'll just say no.
Because that's where I get my inside info from.
No, it was not Cocky that told me that. But
I have him in my phone number. We text each other.
And Shane Beamer said in his press conference yesterday that the first allotment of tickets had already been sold and that Carolina has called down to Orlando to request a second batch of tickets.
Cocky probably told him that too.
So there you go.
He's a loose-lipped fella. Loose-lipped bird.
But Elijah's going to go cover it for us. I covered the last two. The only thing I'm disappointed in for you is your inability to do shows from the ESPN club because there's no more ESPN club.
Would have been so cool.
But
I'm envious of that. Of your experience, I am genuinely envious.
Haney and I mean, I'm telling you, all they wanted you to do, they had a plaque on the wall in the radio booth inside the sports bar, right down at the board. I said, just all you got to say is broadcasting live from the ESPN club at Disney's Boardwalk.
Which I could do.
Man, it was awesome.
God, that's so cool.
It was awesome. They fed us and everything. It was great. So see if you can find a way to get Disney to feed you while you're down there, and that'll make it for a better trip.
That will.
Ray Tanner on tomorrow's program and so much more. Appreciate you being with us. Thanks to Ryan Brewer. See y'all tomorrow.